My husband Ryan died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I am grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/play. That's ethos.com/play. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
ESPN New York. Now streaming live on YouTube. Subscribe today and watch the show. WHSQ and WCBS-FM HD2 New York.
Well, bright or not, we're going to be here to do a show today because that's what we woke up to do, right? We're doing a show. It is live. It is in living color. And you know what? It's even on YouTube, as a matter of fact. You could check that sucker out on the worldwide internet. Unbelievable, this technology thing, huh? Maybe if they had some of that at Camden Yards last night, we'd be singing a different tune when it comes to the New York Yankees and how they fared last evening in Baltimore. But nevertheless, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you make your own breaks, and that's what the Yankees did. But what is going on, everybody? Grasso with you. Chris is still on vacay. We will see him again next week. I'm back from a couple of days off. Good to be back in the saddle with all of you at 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. I look into that control room right now after the hockey line change has taken place. Harvey and Raymond are out. Raymond, a different Raymond, is there. Ray Dinahan. I see Tom Bauer wearing his New York Knicks championship attire this morning. He is all decked out. He is still basking in the celebration. That is Knicks in 5. And hell, we are closer to a start of a new basketball season than we were to even the Knicks winning that championship still 2 months ago. But nevertheless, we will have some fun over the next few hours today. We've got a stellar sideline to sideline segment coming up a little bit later on because guess what? Today is the start of week 2 of the preseason. There are a couple of games that are on the agenda later tonight in the National Football League, if that floats your boat. And how about this? One of them is even going to be a nationally televised game on ESPN. Vegas Texans, Fernando Mendoza goes down to the Lone Star State to take on a very, very good Houston Texans defense. How many of them are actually going to play tonight? It doesn't matter, but nevertheless, you get a live preseason football game at 8 o'clock tonight. Giants are down in Miami doing a joint practice with the Fish. We will hear from the particulars once that is completed. And, of course, the Giants and Dolphins will take to the field on Saturday afternoon in Miami to continue their preseason. Jets are traveling today to Pittsburgh as they will step on the same field as their old buddy Aaron Rodgers tomorrow night for Game 2 of the preseason. Still no word on Geno Smith as to whether or not he will see his first preseason action. But guess what? If he doesn't play tomorrow, if they want to exercise a little bit of caution with that tender ankle, that means you get to see more of one Cade Klubnik, which may not necessarily be a bad thing for all parties involved, right? Geno gets a little bit more rest, and if you're Cade Klubnik and if you're a Jets fan and the Jets coaches, you get to see him in a little bit more game action, even though it's the preseason. But he'll probably get a little bit of a longer run than just the 2 drives that he was allowed to pilot in the preseason opener back on Friday evening against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And hey, you know what the best part about the second preseason game is? It's one game closer to the end of the preseason because you can't get to the end of the preseason without getting to the second preseason game first. Somebody taught me that a long, long time ago, and I live by those words. So only 2 more left, and then before you know it, we will focus on the regular season. But we will do some football conversation throughout the course of the morning, as you would expect. And again, Tom's going to give you sideline to sideline later. We'll do a nice audio files as well, spanning the world of sports. A lot of things to float your boat on this busy Thursday. At Dan Grasso is where you can get me on the old socials if you so choose. And as I said a little while ago, we'll start with the Yankees, who all of a sudden, you know, you look at the standings right now, and I get it, there's still an uphill climb, right? And I have said many times, I just think that catching the Tampa Bay Rays is probably an unlikely proposition here in 2026. I just don't think it's going to happen. But the Yanks are still in striking distance. You could say that. It's 5 games with 36 to play. the math still is in your favor. You still do have the 4 games against them in your building coming up in the month of September, and you hope by then that you are going to be a little bit more of a well-rounded baseball teams in terms of available players. Cody Bellinger is going to begin a rehab assignment for Scranton today. That is a positive. It is a step in the right direction. I know it's not number 99. I get it. But he is also possibly starting to get closer to a return date. And first, a rehab assignment, of course, that will really help this baseball team accomplish what its fans, the organization, expect them to do here in 2026. And that game last night in Baltimore, weird game. Weird game. And I was out driving home last night, and so I was listening to a lot of it on the radio. And look, instead of just burying the lead, might as well just get right to it. I mean, that game pretty much came down to 2 half innings. What happened in the bottom of the 7th and then what happened in the top of the 8th. And that was all she wrote. So did the Yankees catch a break? Absolutely. Everybody that watched the game, except, unfortunately, the umpire who called it foul and the yo-yos in New York, which I don't know what they were looking at to sit there and try to tell you that Pete Alonso did not connect on a home run ball that would have given the Baltimore Orioles the lead. Okay? It's unbelievable to me that they did not overturn that. You know, I'm listening to the game driving home, and even Dave and Susan on the radio broadcast, Yankee announcers were sitting there saying, I mean, the Yankees got a break. There's no other way around it. The Yankees got an unbelievable break there. And you know what? To their credit, and I don't care what sport it is, if you are the beneficiary of a favorable call, however which way it comes about, go out there and use it to your advantage and try to capitalize off it. And that's exactly what they did in the very next half inning. You know, sometimes just put the ball in play. Make the other team have to make a play, right? That's the old saying in sports. I don't care what it is. Let the other team have to go do something. And Baltimore, for an infield hit for George Lombard Jr., bottom line, it got the job done. Put the ball in play, good things will happen. Hockey, throw it to the net, you never know what could happen. Tennis, hit the ball over the net, make them hit another ball back at you. They can maybe force an error, something like that. Throw in a wild pitch after that. You got 2 runs on the board in your favor, and they were able to punch it down and get the final 6 outs of the game and get themselves, I don't know if you want to call it an improbable victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. And they will take it, and they will move on, and they already won a series, and they're going to go for a sweep coming up a little bit later on tonight with Garrett Cole. But look, a weird game, and obviously you want to win games like that when you have a little bit of adversity in, going against you. And here's the thing that I just can't understand, right? We have all this technology, right? All this technology at our disposal. You go online, you watch a game at the ballpark, you watch a game on TV. You've got all this information that is being thrown at you. And it's up to you, the consumer, to digest whatever you want to do. You watch a ball that's hit. You've got launch angle immediately. 5 seconds, you find out what the launch angle was. You go to a game, you look, boom, they flash it on the scoreboard as soon as the ball is struck. Exit velo. So they can calculate exit velo. They can give you the launch angle. They give you all these different type of things, but yet they can't determine in a 1,000% irrefutable manner whether a ball is fair or foul. Like, we can't figure that thing out. We've got pylon cameras in the National Football League. They can't do something when it comes to the foul pole. Even though to the naked eye, you could probably tell that ball was a home run. And for the life of me, I just cannot figure this thing out. Here was Aaron Boone last night, and look, you inject Aaron with truth serum, he's going to tell you it's a home run. But after the game, he was satisfied, obviously, that the Yankees got one. And what did he think about the overturned home run?
We're unsure, and then Webby went out and looked after the game. He wanted to get on the line and see so he's got a foul. Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, sorry, Pete. He's got a foul. Basically, guess what? Aaron Boone was a player. If that was Aaron Boone 25 years ago in the batter's box, and he hit that ball in exactly the same spot, he'd be screaming bloody murder about that one being a home run. So what about the guy who hit the home run, our good buddy Pete Alonso? What happened, Pete? Was it a home run?
Looking at the video, the view from where the camera was pointing straight down the line, from what it looked like, I mean, it was to the right of the yellow and the pulse, so I thought it was fair. But what I was told is in order to overturn a call, you need to have 2 camera angles to confirm it. But the best view, there's the only view that shows the ball fair of fouls, the one down the line, but no other camera angle is available. Video room ruled it foul. Umpire obviously called it foul initially. It is what it is. I mean, the video room and umpire at third base, I mean, they called it foul. That's the only opinions that really matter. And kudos to them for responding, breaking the tie that next half inning, and kudos to Hedrick for making some really tough pitches after a loud strike one. I mean, they executed and they bear down and they got it done, and we didn't. Obviously, that's a really defining call in the game, but you got to, when adversity is faced, you got to push past it, move through it.
What's the point of having all the technology? And say this about Pete. Like, Pete is never a guy that's really going to ruffle feathers. He's always going to give you the, I don't know if you want to call it the PC answer, but that's kind of how Pete has always been during his entire time here with the Mets, and now, of course, it's carried over to the Baltimore Orioles. It's a home run. You know, and I'm not saying that the Yankees or the Orioles would have won that game if the home run stood, right? Because you still got 2 more innings to play. You never know what could have happened, and the Yankees were the ones that went out there and put 2 more runs on the board. And, you know, he mentioned it, too, in that cut. Give Brent Hedrick some credit there, too. Because after giving up a moonshot like that, to be able to bear down, lock in, and then still go out there and get the job done to where you keep it a 3-3 game and even continue the at-bat against Alonso, that was a hell of a job by Hedrick. Really and truly. And it's just a long, long fly ball as far as he's concerned. And the other thing, too, about these last 2 games in Baltimore, even though the Yankees won them, they're asking a lot from their bullpen. They really and truly are, because you're not getting the starting pitching length in the first 2 games of this series. Last night, again, Warren, 4 innings. You know, you're getting 4 innings a night from your starting pitchers. And I understand that, you know, maybe we're nitpicking a little bit here because by and large, the starting rotation has been very, very, very good. So you expect Cole to go a little bit deeper tonight because obviously, you know, you don't want to have to ask your pen to give you some long innings tonight and a lot of work, because look what's waiting for you tomorrow when you get back into town, the start of a homestand, which is going to be very, very tricky for this team, and it's going to tell us a lot. You got a Toronto team, which just gave you fits at their place last week. Then you got Houston, who's playing some good baseball. The Boston Red Sox, who are breathing down your neck in that division. This is going to be a very, very telling homestand for the New York Yankees over the next couple of weeks. And one, let's figure that they're still not going to be 1,000% at full strength, right? Judge and Stanton aren't coming back. You hope that maybe Bellinger is going to be able to make some sort of a return, whether it's late in the weekend, whether it's the beginning of next week. Like I said, he's playing his first rehab game tonight, so it's a step in the right direction. But nevertheless, you want this team to be clicking on all cylinders, especially when you're playing meaningful baseball games against teams that are, let's face it, in pennant races. You know, Toronto, as imperfect as they've been, they still got a shot at this thing. Because, look, in the American League, there's only, I would say, probably 3 teams that are completely dead and buried right now. Just 3 teams. And that's the Angels, the A's, and the Royals. Everybody else still has a shot. They got a pulse. You may not think it's a good one, but they're still alive, right? There's going to be, let's face it, there's going to be a team, in all probability, in the American League that makes the playoffs with a losing record. So I understand that, okay, it allows a fan base to remain engaged over 162 games and to remain relevant over the course of a long season, but that's the argument against expanding the postseason and adding playoff teams, is that you're going to get teams in that probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And the shame of it would be, this is how I look at it always, the shame of it would be if you get it to, let's say, you know, pick the team. Maybe, let's say Minnesota, just for, you know, argument's sake. Let's say Minnesota sneaks into the playoffs this year as the 3rd wild card. And I like the manager, Derek Shelton. Okay? Like him a lot. It's a friend of mine. Good dude. They're 2 games under 500. If they get into the playoffs, you know, 80 and 82. And what happens if they get like stinky hot and go all the way to the American League Championship Series, or dare I say the World Series? You're going to look at that as almost being somewhat not legitimate? I do. Because in a perfect world, they shouldn't even be in the playoffs. You know? I get this is what the rules are, but I don't look at teams like that as playoff worthy. Same thing in football. When the team like the Carolina Panthers last year, they won a bad division with a losing record. And, oh, by the way, get a home playoff game on top of it. That rubs me the wrong way. It just always has. And so it really shouldn't be any different here when it comes to what baseball can have in store in the American League. But look, for the Yankees, let's face it, this is one of the things that's allowing them to even keep up, their standing in life right now in the American League East. The fact that they're only still 5 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, and the fact that since Aaron Judge went down, they've essentially been a glorified 500 baseball team with one of the worst offenses in all of Major League Baseball. And now we're going on 2.5 months, almost 3 full months of being like a 500 baseball team. Normally, in a normal season, that is not going to be as forgiving for you. And you would probably be in a lot worse shape standings-wise than where you are right now, with still a chance to win a division. No matter how strong you think it might be, the Yankees still do have a shot to win the American League East. And we'll see what type of an outing that Garrett Cole is going to give them coming up here this evening as they go for the sweep in Baltimore. But it's going to be a very, very telling homestand, as we said. You got Toronto with 3, then the Astros coming, even though you get a big day off on Monday, which is important for them. Then you have 3 with the Astros and then 4 with the Boston Red Sox. So if you look at, I don't know how the Yankees are kind of structuring it. They probably have some sort of an idea how this whole thing is going to play itself out. But if Bellinger is beginning a rehab assignment today, right, you probably want to get him at least a couple of games with Scranton. Do they rush him back either Saturday or Sunday? They going to want to give him a day off after returning to the field. That's why I'm thinking the built-in day off on Monday, it wouldn't shock me if Bellinger makes his return to the Yankee lineup without any sideways type of things or any sort of setbacks. That could be Tuesday against the Houston Astros. Could be Tuesday against the Astros. And you know what? Not a moment too soon, because they need some help. And now you might be playing with a man down for the foreseeable future because Ryan McMahon injured his thumb in the game last night on a weird play. But you know what? It's been that type of season anyway for the Yankees with guys getting injured, which now moves another guy around the diamond, which is not ideally what you want to do, right? The thing about, look, I understand that McMahon has been an imperfect player for the Yankees, right? I totally get it. But now you got to throw Caballero over there and see how you could piece this thing together, which now takes away a little bit of his versatility in some of the other spots right now. They got to get something going here with the guys that they brought in at the deadline to help out a little bit. We know that Garcia's value is offense and offense only. And he has not really swung that great of a bat since coming over here. Ramos, who they continue to throw out there almost every single day, continue to bat him either third or fourth, has been basically a nothing burger for them. Absolutely nothing. So this is not shaping up to be a, Boffo Grand Slam trade deadline, at least the early returns, when you're looking at Brian Cashman. And look, there were a lot of fans that were disappointed in what the Yankees did at the deadline. They thought they should have been a little bit more aggressive. They thought that they should have, been a little bit more aggressive in bringing in guys, the quote-unquote giving up some prospect pool that were maybe said to be off limits. Look, history will show if Brian Cashman was right or wrong on this. What you do know is the one guy who was an untouchable in George Lombard Jr., that was the right move. Because think about where this Yankee team would be the last couple of weeks if this kid was not called up. You imagine this Yankee team right now without Lombard on the field? Forget about what he's doing or not doing on the, with the bat. And he's hitting. You know what I mean? He's not doing a bad job with the stick either. But he's worth his weight in gold in the field. And the fact that he is defending the position at such an incredibly high level. I mean, think about what he's saving the Yankees. Like, I don't have his numbers in front of me, defensive runs saved and all that other stuff. But I mean, think about his value there and how some guys make the routine play look like it's an ordeal and a challenge, and what type of circus that it was at the shortstop position for the New York Yankees before this kid was called up. You look across town even with the Mets. I mean, this has not been a great defensive season for Francisco Lindor. The mental lapses, the easy errors that he's making. Lombard is rock solid in that regard. And that's what you would expect. This kid is as advertised. This is what you expected him to be when he got the call up. And so if he has been somewhat of a steadying presence for you there on the infield, that to me is a positive all things together. So, look, Yankees got one last night. There's no other way around it, right? Got a little bit of a gift from Major League Baseball, and they took advantage. And you move on to the next one, and you get a little greedy. You're giving the ball to your guy. See if he can give you some length tonight. See if the bats can give you just enough. I mean, Kyle Bradish is going for the Orioles. It's not like you're facing Jim Palmer tonight or Mike Mussina. You know, this is a guy that the Yankees should hit. Even a depleted New York Yankee team. What are you saying, Ray?
Scott Erickson? No.
I think you go. Scott Erickson's in trouble with the law, by the way. Did you see what Scott Erickson did? Did you see what Scott Erickson has been up to lately?
I'm currently incarcerated.
Is he in, or is he on? Did the trial commence, or did he finish? But yeah, Scott Erickson, naughty boy. Naughty. All kidding aside, naughty boy. And you kids could Google Scott Erickson and what he's been out there, drag racing basically in Southern California with a lady friend associate of his, which claimed the lives of a couple of youngsters, which is just a tragedy. But no Scott Erickson. We're not bringing up his name, Ray. Sorry. 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. As you can tell, I'm excited for the show today. I'm really I couldn't even sleep last night. I was that excited. See, I step away for a couple of days, and it's like I don't know what to do with myself. I have no idea how to help pass the time. But I'm here. I'm back. Like I said, I am all fired up for some sideline to sideline later as we begin week 2 of the preseason starting tonight. Little audio files happening later, too. We'll have some baseball thoughts. Hey, Steve Cohen held court yesterday before his Mets went out and won another baseball game yesterday and taken the rubber match from the San Diego Padres. Some thoughts on what Uncle Steve had to say. Like we said, Giants and Dolphins scrimmaging right now down in Miami in the heat. We'll get some reaction to that and a little Jet conversation, too, because I don't know if you caught the interview, the piece that was written about Aaron Glenn, little one-on-one sit-down in The Athletic. Jonathan Jones caught up with AG, and AG, you know the old saying, like, you don't want to point the finger, got to point the thumb sometimes, be a little bit more accountable. Well, that was AG pointing the thumb in a nutshell, and all the things that went wrong last year in his first go-around as a head coach, and I don't think I'm breaking any news here, things that need to be a lot better in year number 2 if the Jets are going to have success, and more importantly, Aaron Glenn's going to have success as a head coach. As I said, not breaking news, not a Boost Mobile situation, but we'll see if we do get some breaking news over the next couple of hours. 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. It's good to be back. Grassa with you here on this Thursday. It's ESPN New York.
ESPN New York and MSG Network are joining forces.
Big news, Jazz hands.
Start your mornings with DiPietro and Rothenberg live on the MSG Network. Then stick around for Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg live on MSG every afternoon.
We are beyond excited to start simulcasting on MSG Networks.
So think about this real quick second. You got us in the morning 6 to 10. You got our afternoon show 3 to 7. And then right after that, you're talking Knicks, you're talking Rangers.
Oh yeah. You wake up, you pop it on again, and there we are, waiting for you. Good morning.
ESPN New York and MSG Network, together like never before. It all starts Tuesday, September 8th.
There are a million reasons to love New York. Making your budget stretch isn't one of them. According to an independent study, Amazon prices average 14% lower than other retailers. Get food, fashion, furniture, and more shipped straight to your building. Plus, another study found Amazon Prescription Pass customers pay nearly 1/3 less out of pocket. Learn more at aboutamazon.com.
Very busy traffic day. RFK Bridge, 3 lanes are closed coming in from Queens onto the bridge with a crash. Traffic is a mess there out of Astoria. Southbound BQE, westbound 278, broken down tractor trailer. That's coming into the Williamsburg Bridge. Left lane is closed, BQE there. And at Inwood, you still have the closure of 204th Street at Sherman Avenue because of a horrific crash into a building earlier this morning. In New Jersey, Gardner State Parkway northbound, only the 3 left lanes are open there northbound by exit 135, 136 with a crash investigation. Those delays go back to Woodbridge. I'm Bob Williams on 880 ESPN New York.
Hey, it's Alan Hahn. Upgrade your outdoor living space with TimberTech, the #1 brand in premium decking from Rings End. Picture this, a deck that's the highlight of your backyard, turning heads season after season. Now, imagine 20, 30 years later. It's still going strong. And here's the best part. You haven't spent a moment sanding, staining, or sealing it. Visit your local Rings End for the stunning real wood looks of TimberTech decking, paired with the kind of durability that only advanced engineering can deliver. Backed by industry-leading warranties, TimberTech is the decking that performs for decades. Ask for it locally at Rings End.
D'Agostino, Law, Bite Back. This is John D'Agostino from D'Agostino & Associates, and I know how a serious accident can change your life just like that.
I'm Jenna D'Agostino, and I understand that with pain comes medical bills and time out of work. Let us get you justice.
This is John Ryan, the closer. For over 35 years, our family has been getting accident victims every dollar they deserve.
I started this firm for the injured so they can bite back against the insurance companies.
Our legacy is to get you justice. Bite back.
To get you paid, bite back.
At D'Agostino & Associates, bite back means fight back. When you're hurt and they blame you, we bite back and get you every dollar you deserve. We have offices throughout New York and New Jersey, so call us first at 1-800-BITE-BACK. That's 1-800-248-3222. 1-800-248-3222. I've been there, and I'll be there for you.
There you were, surrounded by fans. Everybody remembers the game. Nobody remembers the guy coughing behind you. Till a few days later, at 2 a.m., you wake up with a fever and your throat's on fire. Now what? Urgent care? Closed. ER? Slammed. Telehealth? Maybe, but the pharmacy's closed. You needed a medical emergency kit. These aren't first aid kits. They contain essential prescriptions used for over 30 common conditions. Sinus and ear infection, UTIs, stomach bugs, traveler's diarrhea, and more on hand before you need them. Use your doctor-developed guidebook to select the right prescription or call their telemedicine doctor standing by. It's like an urgent care and drugstore at home. When you're sick, traveling, or stranded, you'll wish you'd ordered a medical emergency kit. Order online in minutes and it's shipped to your door. And save $45 with my promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880. That's promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880.
Winning football teams have a playbook. Winning businesses? They've got Robert Half. Because when your star player's out or the workload blitzes, you need the right move fast. That's where Robert Half's specialized recruiters, together with their award-winning AI technology, step in, matching companies with skilled contract talent across finance, tech, legal, and more. It's depth on your bench. It's keeping the drive alive. Visit roberthalf.com/talent. At Robert Half, we know talent.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/play. That's ethos.com/play. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
All right, Grasso with you here on ESPN New York. Hey, big news. Big news. You want to stay tuned for this. Specifically, if you're a New York sports fan, because DNR and DHR are coming to MSG Networks. That is right. The secret is out. Starting Tuesday, September the 8th, you can catch our morning and afternoon shows simulcasted across MSG Network's television and digital platforms. You can still catch us on 880 AM, the ESPN New York app, YouTube, and more. I mean, what is this now up to, Ray? Because I've lost count. What is this now up to, like 18 different ways you can consume the shows? Right? Something like that?
I think we're bordering on 19.
Bordering on 9, so about like 18 and a half different ways you can either watch or listen to these programs. But we are beyond excited to start simulcasting on MSG Networks, which will give our shows an even bigger platform to reach our fans. That's exactly how they explained it to us, too, in the meeting. Don't miss out. It is all starting September 8th on MSG Networks. I am pumped. You should be, too. 800-919-3776. Let's get some phone calls up here because a lot of people want to chime in. We're going to start today with our good buddy in Michigan, Lansing. to be exact. And his name is Craig, and he's first up here on ESPN New York. Craig, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. Just out getting a couple miles in. Beautiful day out. Finally, it's not the outdoor incinerator like it's been all summer. So, look, man, I heard your monologue, and I just, I've been saying for years, when they have a replay call, you can't have one dude or one girl, making the choice. And so what I've said is you have to have a panel. Maybe you're in Chicago, I'm in New York, somebody else is in L.A. None of us know how we're going to vote for this, but we have a certain amount of time to put in the call, and that way it's not left up to one person, which, by the way, MLB, because I looked it up, there's no public record of who's made this decision. So when it's that, ambiguous.
But Craig, real quick, Craig, let me stop you 1 second. What about good old-fashioned common sense? When does common sense intervene into these conversations?
Well, that's what I mean. We can't have common sense when somebody gets a home run call wrong that's clear and obvious, and they still get it wrong after replay. So that's what I mean by, hey, you know what? Honestly, it should be 5 people voting. That's a home run. But what if a couple people see it differently? In my opinion, if you have this replay system where you have more than one person deciding what it is and what it isn't, it's much more highly likely that you'll get the call correct. Because, if it's an odd number, 5 or 3, it's going to have to go one way or another. It's not going to be a tie. So I feel like if they want to get these calls right, they're going to have a panel deciding, not just one person, not one unnamed person that doesn't have to put their name on this good or bad call.
Well,
Well,
Craig, I don't know if it's necessarily a panel. You know what I mean? Because when they go to New York or Sea Caucus, wherever it is, the replay room, you're sitting there and it's one guy who's looking at it who's in communication with the umpire back on the field. I've never been in the room before. I don't know if they're getting input from other people in the room. Is there somebody in the replay room who's kind of just walking around, dropping in on the different games that are going on? And if there is indeed a replay, is he overseeing what the guy on the headsets is looking at? You know what I mean? So is there any sort of communal type of conversation happening to where everybody chimes in and says, nope, it's not definitive. Yeah, I don't have a definitive answer, so we can't overturn the call. I don't know if that's happening.
The way that it's set up, the way I just read about it, because I looked it up before I called you guys, is there's 15 on one given night. There might be 15 umpires assigned to all the games.
Right.
And then just when a call comes in, whoever's available takes that call. I don't know if it's, how they decide who gets it, but there's plenty of people available. So they already have plenty of people available, so they could do a panel. The other thing is, I think it's like you said, I read it really quickly, but I do believe it's like you said, where they are having a conversation with the on-field umpire during that call, which I think that's not what you want. You don't want to be discussing it with someone who made the call. Because I'm going to think I'm right. I made the call. I think I'm right. Well, why would someone discuss it with me? I've already made the call. And so I think that, like I said, and also they ought to have accountability where at the end of the season, we look at all of your calls that you've made and we can kind of decide, you know what, you're just not very good at this job. So we're going to get rid of you and get somebody in here that is. And they ought to have accountability for across all sports, the NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, all WNBA, every sport should have accountability to these referees and umpires making these decisions, so that way we don't continue to have somebody that's made poor choices, continue to have a job. And so I think that if they want to get it right, they're going to have to do it in a panel situation where every vote is anonymous. Nobody knows how the other person has voted. You just look at it, you decide what you think, put in the decision, and then majority rules.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Craig, and thanks a lot for the phone call. See, here's the thing, though. All right, we've been at this for so long when it comes to replay. Young people may not believe this, but there was actually a time where we used to watch sports without instant replay. Think about it. There was a time actually in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, you had instant replay. Then they voted to take it out entirely because it wasn't satisfying everybody's needs. And then you had way too many blunders that would happen because there was none whatsoever, so then they put it back in the game. I remember definitively, and Jet fans will probably remember, there was a game back in 1998. They played the Seahawks, and this was a good Jet team that went to the AFC Championship game. They played the Seahawks at the Meadowlands. I want to say it was like early December. Vinny Testaverde, they called a quarter, which is a gutty call, down inside the 5-yard line late in the game. They called a quarterback draw for Vinny to try to punch it in himself and get the go-ahead touchdown. Vinny came up about 2 yards short of the end zone on 4th and goal. 2 yards short. They called it a touchdown. If you go back and you watch the play, Vinny's right hand, his bare hand, went over the goal line into the end zone. But anybody who knows anything about football will tell you that doesn't mean anything if you don't have the football. The football was in his left arm, like tucked over, but he was down at like the 2-yard line. His bare hand got into the end zone, and they called it a touchdown. There was no instant replay then. The call stood. Jets won the game. And Dennis Erickson, who was the Seahawks coach that year, that one game, maybe contributed to him losing his job. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Seattle missed a playoff spot that year by maybe like a game or two. But, I mean, it was so egregiously bad. It was so bad. It really and truly was. Oh, 800-919-3776 is the telephone number. Let's say hi to Frank, who's calling from Syosset. He's up next. Frankie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. Hey, you don't need a panel of judges. You don't need a panel of people. You don't need a panel of anything. All you need is a graph. The way a batter taps his cap and wants a ball and strike reviewed, they need some sort of a graph out there that shows whether it's fair or foul. You can't dispute that. And Dan, why are we still pushing chains for every 10 yards in 2026 in football?
Don't we have one of those like virtual measurement things now in football, right? We have that.
I would imagine. I mean, they could put a dot in the middle of your forehead from Mars if they wanted to.
I mean, they could track anything now. But, I mean, you can't necessarily put those in baseballs. I mean, that would be a little dicey, I think. But, Frank, I hear your point. You're 1,000% right. Here's the thing, though, and I thank you for the phone call. The problem is, and I said this a little earlier in the show, how come you're watching a game, you could get launch angle, you could get exit velo like that. Like that. But yet we still do not have a definitive measure to tell us if a home run or a ball is fair or foul if it hits or if it goes over the foul pole or the fair pole, as some like to put it, right? How come we don't have that technology yet? Now, Craig Albernaz, who's the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, we're looking for the audio, but I read his comments after the game last night, and he basically pointed to money as being the determining factor. He's like, well, we can, we could do this, but it's gonna have to come down to money. And they don't want to spend money. I mean, it's not money. I don't think that's an issue. And he's going to be salty, of course, because he thinks his team was robbed of a home run and maybe robbed from winning a game. And remember, the Orioles are fighting tooth and nail. They need that game last night more than the Yankees do. They're still in last place right now. They're trying to make up ground and try to get into the postseason. So I would expect them to be a little bit more salty. I get how this whole thing works, but I don't think money has any sort of a role in this type of thing. And Tom, the clip that you just sent me a little while ago, the one that we were talking about, that was the Baltimore broadcast?
Yeah, so our good friend of the station, Jarv, on X, tweeted out an angle. I guess that was from the Masson broadcast, and it shows that the ball may have actually been foul. The Yes broadcast showed their angle, and that was more so down the first baseline, which is an angle that makes it look like it's fair. The Baltimore angle, which was pretty much right next to the first base dugout, makes it look like it may have been slightly foul.
But why is that, though? You know what I'm saying? How come? So you're telling me that because the Yes cameras were a little bit further up the first baseline, right? And the Masson angle, are they still on Masson? Yeah, I guess they are, right? The Masson angles are stationed differently in the ballpark, and because they had a different look of it, that's how we know that if it's fair or foul. Then why are we all using one operative camera angle for something like this? What is Major League Baseball looking at, right? What are they looking at in their situation room? You would think that with all of this technology, they're weighing it all in together. And then I would at least raise the question. Like, if I'm the Orioles, I would sit there and you can't challenge any instant replay, right? If Alvarez came out of the dugout last night to challenge that in any way, shape, or form, he's getting tossed because you can't sit there and dispute the rule of God, apparently. What they say, fair or foul, out, say, like, you're out. Even if you want an explanation, you're out of the game, which I think is weak, but nevertheless. So what is baseball looking at? The people in New York, when they're looking at all of these different angles at their disposal to make the best decision, if they're using them all, so they only take into account the one that shows that it's foul, well, what about the other angle, like we said, that Yes had, which looked like it was a home run? Pete Alonso is the one who hit the damn ball. He's looking at it, following the ball right down the line the whole way. He thought it was a home run. So you mean to tell me his vantage point was exactly the same as what the Yes camera showed? You know, you can't have it both ways here. And that's why I think that the thing that would anger and frustrate a baseball fan with somebody who maybe doesn't even have a dog in the fight, knowing that full well, let's say it could be next week, it could be next month, it could be next year. It could involve your team, which could potentially either help you win or lose a game, and you could get bit with something like this, is that there's no consistency or uniformity when it comes to how we're legislating this stuff. And I've said this from day one when it comes to instant replay with baseball. And I don't remember what year it came into play. I've lost track. But that whole process to me, if you rewind back to those times, it seemed very forced and rushed. Like this was still an imperfect system that they just decided to roll with. They said, hey, what the hell? Let's go with it. Let's do it. They tested it out during spring training that year. There were still major, major issues with it. Like, I remember there were times in spring training, like, they couldn't even get the damn, like, technology to work. And they just, like, would punt on the call. And then they're like, no, it's good to go. We're fine. Let's make it happen. And then you had remember what it used to be like? Remember when the umpire would have to go over to, like, the third base dugout or whatever it was, and some guy would come out with this, like, ginormous, I don't know what the hell he had around his neck. Like some tricked out like Viewmaster from like World War II or something, and the umpires would have to like put the headsets on and like look into this thing or whatever. Remember that? And that's how they would arrive at a call. And the umpires sometimes wouldn't even know what the hell they were looking at because like you and I watching it on TV would say, oh, that was definitely out, safe, whatever. But then they would arrive at a call which completely defied common sense. And now, when you have an entire situation room with about 15 different cameras and angles and screens, and you got all these people who are all chiming in on it, they're still arriving at verdicts sometimes which contradict what you and I and everybody else are watching at home. And that's troubling to me more than a decade later. It really is. 800-919-3776. Quick timeout. We come back. We'll sprinkle in some football conversation here as well. Grass on a Thursday on ESPN New York.
Good Karma Brands is proud to be an equal opportunity employer, providing equal employment, development, and advancement opportunities to all teammates and applicants. To learn more about careers with us, please send an email to talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com. That's talentacquisition@goodkarmabrands.com.
This is Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg.
There needs to be an intervention.
I agree.
And this is coming from a Met fan, and I get it. I'm not telling you to get rid of Mr. Met. He's a part of the fabric of the Mets, but you don't have to make him a part of every damn thing you do. The kids love it. Great. But when Senga's established himself as a closer, Steve Gelbis is trying to break news, we don't need to dance in Mr. Met as if like he's vital to everything that's going on.
Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. Weekdays at 3 on 880 ESPN and the ESPN New York app.
Hey, it's Michael Kidd. Not sleeping? Well, it could be your mattress. At PC Richard & Son, they don't just sell you a mattress. Their experts use a 4-step mattress fitting process so that your new bed fits you perfectly. They guarantee it. And in-home delivery on any mattress $399 and up, it's free. Come in for a complimentary mattress consultation and get a free travel neck pillow, no purchase required. So do what I do and get to PC Richard & Son today for your new mattress. Free delivery excludes Manhattan.
Hey Yankees fans, gather a group of 10 or more and take advantage of our 2026 Yankees group ticket specials. Whether you're getting together with family and friends, organizing a fundraiser, or entertaining clients, your group will love bonding over the Bronx Bombers. Start planning your 2026 group outings today. Log on to Yankees.com/groups. Call 212-YANKEES or email us at groups@Yankees.com. That's 2026 group tickets. Call 212-YANKEES or visit Yankees.com/groups today.
Do you read more about your team in the off-season than in the season? Does your game day outfit include a brown bag with eye holes? Then you may be a fan of a BST or bad sports team. Luckily, when you bundle your home and auto insurance with Progressive, you're protected. Because seeing your painted face in the rearview mirror after a loss isn't just depressing. It's distracting. Visit Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Covered subject to policy terms. Not available in all states or situations.
Shohei Ohtani's interpreter was fired today. Ippei Mitsuhara ran up gambling debts to a Southern California bookmaking operation.
The inside story of the biggest scandal in modern baseball.
He was absolutely bananas, the amount of bets he was making. I've never seen anything like it.
From 30 for 30 podcasts, this is The Betrayal of Shohei Ohtani.
Presented by Gusto. New episodes available now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the Michael Kay Show.
The general manager of the New York Giants, that is Joe Schoen. Now, one of the things that have been worked on throughout camp is discretion on the part of Jackson to slide. Do you think he's made strides in that?
You know, you just have to learn. You start coming in every Monday and realizing how bad your body hurts and you feel like you were in a car crash, and half of those hits are, avoidable. And Jackson's a smart kid and understands that, and I think that'll be reflected in his play this year.
The Michael Kay Show, weekdays at 1 on ESPN New York and streaming live on YouTube. Presented by the Parisman Firm.
Congratulations, New York. The Knicks did it. Through battle after battle, they dominated to become this year's NBA champions. Day in and day out, the hard work paid off, and you were there every step of the way. Enjoy the crown. Own it, because this year is your year. A part of your legacy that will never be forgotten. So celebrate this moment, show your pride, and shop the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
All right, attention soccer fans. The New York Red Bulls, they take on the Philadelphia Union on Saturday, August 29th. At Sports Illustrated Stadium for Anime Night. Ray Dinahan, a huge anime guy, presented by the New Jersey Lottery. Arrive early for the Boulevard. Get it? Boulevard Red Bulls. 4 p.m. You get food trucks, games, family fun, a free match day poster while supplies last. And when the gates open, the first 10,000 fans can score a Yu-Gi-Oh card pack. Am I saying that right, Tom? Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, you just got to say it with a little bit more conviction. Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
There you go.
Yu-Gi-Oh. It could have been Yu-Gi-Oh, like the way it's written here. I don't know. Like I said, I would go to Ray Dinahan for that because he's a huge anime guy. So he would be able to set the record straight on that. Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh card pack. First 10,000 fans. For your chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets, here's what you got to do. Enter right now at ESPNNewYork.com or through the ESPN New York app. Kickoff is set for 7:30 p.m. You can bring your crew and make it a night to remember. Get your tickets today at NewYorkRedBulls.com. I'm sure Harvey's going to be at the game, right? And he's going to get himself a Yu-Gi-Oh card pack. And why the heck wouldn't you? So check it out, Red Bulls. I know the World Cup fever is still very much a thing in this country. And you can experience it for yourself on Saturday, August the 29th. What could possibly be better? 800-919-3776. So I mentioned Craig Albernaz, the manager of the Baltimore Orioles. Here was his reaction to the foul ball call on Pete Alonso yesterday on that non-home run.
You definitely never know what they're going to rule, but I was really surprised that it came back stands. I mean, but the first thing is, like, on the dugout iPads, there's ball tracking data with the field that the players see. So it's really tough to have that come back as stands and have that visual in the dugout as well. You know, it's 2026. I think technology is advanced pretty good. You know, there was teams using AI on the iPads. Other sports use ball tracking data for challengeable calls. Don't understand why we don't do it, but it's not why we lost the game. But I think that moment was a big moment, and especially takes a home run from us and Pete as well. You know, I had a pretty good look at it. Like, it's tough for umpire down the third baseline, the way he's looking and going over the foul pole. But I think when it goes to review and look at all the angles and video, and especially the ball tracking data, it's pretty disappointing.
Do you know if Major League Baseball has looked into ball tracking data for replay?
No, I have no idea. Probably get in trouble for even saying what I did, but here we are.
There you go. Everybody's walking on eggshells when it comes to something controversial. You can't have it. Now, we'll put that aside for a second here, because one other element here for the Yankees that transpired in the last couple of days since, I was last here, is that another injury to a pretty significant player of theirs, and that would be Max Fried, who we know spent significant time on the shelf earlier this year because of the bone bruise in his elbow. And now it's the elbow again, except it's not a bone bruise. It's inflammation in the elbow area. Now, normally when you have inflammation, that's not necessarily a fantastic sign either. But everybody you talk to with the Yankees seems to think that this is not going to be as punitive as his earlier stay on the shelf this season. So, here was our good buddy Buster Olney with DNR. Was that this morning Buster was on with the guys?
Oh, that was yesterday.
Yesterday morning. Okay, but still, it's still timely news. What does the future have in store for one Max Fried?
I think at this point, his season's in jeopardy just because you look at the calendar. It's always interesting when you get to this time of year and teams will say, well, the guy's going on the injured list and we'll see what happens. The calendar works against you, right? They're going to have to shut him down and then he's going to have to ramp back up. And by that time, I think when you look at the actual calendar and the weeks left in the season, if they get any pitches out of him in October, I think that would be a surprise. And it doesn't mean it can't happen, but just look right now, for example, Garrett Crochet is playing flat ground catch for the Red Sox as he comes back from his issues, and he's just hoping that he can throw an inning or two and be available a little bit in the postseason for the Red Sox, and that gives you some indication of how much ground Max Fried would have to make up to come back and be able to pitch. So at this point, you're looking at a postseason rotation of Cam Schlittler and Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon, and then Will Warren and Weathers. You're probably looking for opportunity to use them out of the bullpen.
Here's the thing, though, right? And how long was it that Fried was sidelined for earlier this season? Was it about in the 2-month range? Tom, was it like 2 months that Fried was on the shelf?
Oh, something along those lines.
Give or take? Okay. If the Yankees are telling us that it's not going to be as lengthy a stay on the shelf that it was earlier, then why should we necessarily have to kiss his season goodbye? Right? Like, let's say it's only a month. And what if we're sitting here with like a week to go in the regular season and maybe he's ready to go again? Now, look, I understand that he's not going to be throwing for a while, so you have to have that build-up process again. But you want to say his regular season is in jeopardy? Okay, maybe. But I don't know if you could sit here and kiss October goodbye. I think that might be a little premature. Especially considering what happens if the Yankees do catch the Tampa Bay Rays and they get that first round bye. And that they're just beginning in round 2 and that buys them an extra few more days, maybe it buys them another week, essentially, to where you don't have to play a game. Truth be told, though, and if you want to assume that Fried, let's take Buster at his word, right? And Fried's not going to be around for the rest of the season. You have to look at the Yankees' strength right now, which has always been starting pitching, and say to yourself, okay, I feel good about Cole. I feel good about Cam Schlittler. Rodon is still obviously a question mark because he's just coming back from injury himself. Throw in the fact that, I don't think he's someone that has ingrained himself in the circle of trust for Yankee fans. I think that that's a fair statement. But just the other day, we were talking about Ryan Weathers. And this is the best stretch of baseball that Ryan Weathers has ever thrown in his big league career. Now, granted, You want to say that it's a small sample size. You want to say that it's basically been only about a month. Fine. But if I'm looking at a guy who now has put himself in position to possibly garner serious consideration to be like a fourth starter for you in the postseason, I'm willing to roll the dice. If I'm going to have Cody Bellinger back, if I'm going to have Aaron Judge back, and you're going to tell me that I may have to go through October without Max Fried, I still can't sit here and say that the Yankees should be completely discounted from any sort of championship conversation. Can't say it. Because I think that the team still has too many things that I think could help them out compared to a shoddy American League once we get to short series time in the month of October. They should be able to handle themselves in this American League come postseason time, even without Max Fried. I really and truly believe it. But again, I'm going to try to be optimistic about this and hold Aaron Boone and everybody with the Yankees at their word that they don't think that this is a season-ending type of injury and that he is going to be back in the mix in some way, shape, or form. But only time will tell. Now, when we come back, let's switch gears and do a little bit of football because Jets are going to have preseason game number 2 mañana in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Aaron Glenn, some interesting things to say to The Athletic about what went wrong in year 1, how he can be a better head coach in year number 2, and what the expectations are for this football team heading into a very, very critical 2026. Grassa with you on a Thursday. It's ESPN New York.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Call 877-CARS for Kids to reach a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Call us now or go to carsforkids.org.
Donate your car today.
Did you know you can donate real estate too?
Hey, New York and New Jersey. Commitment issues? No problem. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month forever, as in for life. Switch now at boostmobile.com. After 30 gigabytes, you may experience slower speeds. Pay $25 a month as long as you stay on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off and to wear a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the right seat.
Sponsored by the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee.
Mornings with DiPietro and Rothenberg.
I firmly believe I have the coach. I less believe, but still believe I have the quarterback. And if you tell me a team has a coach and a quarterback, you know what? I believe that they can do something special. I think Harbaugh is a really good coach, and he will build this into a championship team.
DiPietro and Rothenberg, morning 6 to 10 on ESPN New York and streaming live on YouTube.
Monkey Sports, built by players for players, is your one-stop shop for hockey, baseball, lacrosse, and more. Find top-name equipment and expert in-store services like sharpening, break-ins, and relacing. Shop in-store at Monkey Sports in Farmingdale or Woodbridge or online for all the top brands. Whatever your sports, Monkey Sports gets you game ready fast. Monkey Sports, where athletes shop.
I'm David Ortiz. When I lost my mom, she was only 46, and I lost my dad to cancer. It was the worst pain I ever felt. It made me think, what will happen with the people I love when my time is up? That's why I have life insurance. Ethos makes it easy. It's all online, take about 10 minutes, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ethos.com/game. Paid testimonial. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Empower. Ellie here is getting the sleeve she's always dreamed of. She worked with Empower and planned for her next move. So she got good at money. Now she can be a little bad. Oh, by the way, you spelled journey wrong. No worries. She can afford the cover-up too. Ooh, check out my tat. It says, invest well, live a little. Start today at empower.com.
ESPN New York is your home for the world champion New York Knicks. WHSQ and WCBS-FM HD2, New York.
All right, hour number 2 on a busy Thursday. Grassa hanging out with you here on ESPN New York at 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. We take it right up until 1 p.m., and then it is our good pal, Mr. Michael K., who is going to entertain until 3 o'clock when it's Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. We told you the Giants and the Dolphins are doing battle down in Miami today, a little joint practice venture, and then they'll play the game on Saturday afternoon. Well, I don't know if it's the opportunity to hit on someone other than your own teammate, or maybe it's that the heat, the humidity, that's probably just adding to the general frustration level. But there's already been a little bit of a brouhaha between the two teams, which unfortunately has become kind of part and parcel, right, with some of these joint practice sessions in and around the National Football League involving a lot of teams. And Abdul Carter was in the middle of it, threw a punch at Patrick Paul, who was one of the linemen for the Miami Dolphins. So some of the reporters who were there and taking it in, the video is now all on social media. We'll see what John Harbaugh has to say about that a little bit later on. I'm sure he's not too happy about it because, as any coach is going to tell you, when you sit there and you want to throw punches and get frustrated, I don't care who was at fault and who did this and who did that. Bottom line is you're the one that's going to be at fault, and your team is going to be penalized in a game situation. Practice is one thing, but if it happens in a game, that's 15 yards, and it could even lead to a disqualification for an important player. And some guys go out there and they just try to goad certain guys into setting them off and to seeing if they can draw a flag or get them to, let's say, throw a punch and get them maybe thrown out of the game. I mean, they talk about this stuff. They know who's a hothead and who's not. This is well documented on the scouting reports week in and week out when you're getting ready to play an opponent. So this is nothing new here. And, part of doing this type of stuff, facing the adversity and then the heat and all that stuff, it's how do you adapt and how do you fare? So certainly going to be a teaching point for the Giant head coach for sure, with Abdul Carter, and they'll talk to the media a little bit later on here, hopefully while we're still on the air, and we'll be able to turn some of that stuff around there for you. Jets, on the other hand, they're going to be back at it tomorrow against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, their first and only road playoff game of this exhibition season. And the question, of course, on the field is going to be, what about Geno Smith? Are we going to finally see him? Aaron Glenn wouldn't tip his hand yesterday as to whether or not the quarterback was going to be available or not, and this is what he told you when asked about Geno's status on Wednesday.
Listen, the players don't play, and then things can change, as we get closer to game time.
You said the management. And with those guys, will you play them this week, or are you going to give them a little
Say it again?
The guys that didn't practice today.
That's something we'll continue to talk about and think about as we go through the next couple of days.
Players are going to play unless something pops up at the last minute, which means if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't think Geno's going to play tomorrow. I mean, you had the ankle heavily taped up at practice yesterday. I don't think that it behooves them in any way for him to go out there and play, a couple of series, on a Friday night in August? Give it another week. And if the ankle, he could go out there and practice on it, right? He's still out on the practice field. Give him another week. And then if he feels a little bit better and they don't think that there's any sort of danger, you send him out there against the Giants in the preseason finale and let him get, some reps out there and get the live bullets flying around just to be able to get the rhythm and the timing and that sort of thing. And on the flip side of that, he don't play, then that means you get to see more of Cade Klubnik, which if you're a fan, that's probably not exactly a bad thing. Because I think that most Jet fans have a general understanding as to what Geno Smith is at this stage of his career and what he's going to be able to provide this team. Cade Klubnik is the unknown, right? He did some nice things in that game against Tampa Bay last week, but that was only 2 series. And I think that the one sort of knock that you can have on the operation last Friday was that he only got 2 series. And why not play him a little bit more, right? I mean, do you really have to throw Brady Cook out there and make sure he gets all that work in the second half? Or, you got to see Bailey Zappi out there throwing interceptions left and right. Like, is that something that is an absolute necessity in the month of August in the preseason? See, Ray Danahan's nodding his head like he wants more Bailey Zappi. And you might get more Bailey Zappi tomorrow. Who knows? Bailey Zappi might be good for another pick or two tomorrow night. You never know. That is why you play the games in August, baby. That is why we have preseason football, because there might be a Bailey Zappi one up for grabs. And we could all consider ourselves blessed to say that we saw such a thing. I kid, of course. But Klubnik is somebody that is exciting to this fan base right now because it's the great unknown, right? Might turn out to be good, might turn out to be just like every other quarterback that seems to pass through Florham Park. Like, maybe he's going to be nothing more than a career backup. But the only way we're going to get a definitive answer on such things is if the kid plays. And look, we don't know how much time he's going to get in the regular season. He might see legitimate action or he might not see action. But you knew this preseason was going to be tailor-made for Cade Klubnik, right? Starters don't play much anymore. And whether you want to look at this as a legitimate backup quarterback audition, call it whatever the hell you want. But all I know is that the quarterbacks in that room right now, as presently constituted, the guy's not named Geno Smith. Cade Klubnik is the guy who probably deserves to play the most. And even though he does not, technically speaking, have a regular season snap under his belt yet in the National Football League, that's probably the guy you have the most confidence in if something were to happen to your starter. We've already seen the Brady Cook experience, right? 5 games, did not go very well. Went well enough for him because it got him on the VIP list for Game 4 of the NBA Finals some way, shape, or form, but it did, so shout out to Brady. Right? We know Bailey Zappi already. We've heard all the Bailey Zappi talk, even when he was with the New England Patriots once upon a time. Remember, that he was this like undiscovered gem. Didn't work out. Now he's here for a reason. And we saw on Friday night how that is likely going to end up. So you want to see the kid. And I understand that. Where has Cade Klubnik impressed? And what do you want to see on Friday? Here's Aaron Glenn.
That's exactly him growing. And the mistakes that he made in the game, that those same mistakes don't show up. And that's what you want to see with everybody. And I know we're speaking on Cade right now. And listen, I think every time he practices, he's getting better and better and better. But I also like the fact that those mistakes that he make in practice, we're able to coach him and he understands those mistakes. I think that's the number one thing when it comes to any player is, man, when those mistakes happen, let's attack those mistakes right now. Let's make sure we clean it up. And let's make sure he understands the why behind the mistake. I think that's the most important part for any player is understanding the why behind it. And I think that's when you improve the most.
I think what would make those games more tolerable for Jets fans is seeing more Cade Klubnik. And I would be surprised tomorrow if you do not see him at least for a quarter and a half. He'll probably get at least 3-4 series tomorrow. That would be my best guess, and there's no reason for him not to. That's what this time of year is for. Young quarterbacks, inexperienced quarterbacks. This is why it should happen. Now, I don't know how many of you had a chance to read the piece done by Jonathan Jones in The Athletic. Had to sit down with Aaron Glenn. Now, a couple of things with that. I thought it was a pretty refreshing, candid admission at times from Aaron Glenn. And I used the example a little bit earlier in the show where, instead of pointing the finger, you point the thumb, the old saying goes, where you take accountability for your actions and your mistakes. And there was a lot that went wrong last year. And guess what? There were a lot of mistakes. And so you would kind of expect him to be so candid. And I think that he realized after a lot of self-scouting when the season was over that things needed to change. And they made a bunch of changes to the coaching staff. And you already, even though there hasn't been a regular season game yet, the head coach's demeanor is different than how it was a season ago. Granted, we're still in training camp. There's not a win or a loss yet in the standings. I get all that stuff. And maybe it'll change over time. But you're starting to see a head coach that is a little more affable when it comes to his daily dealings with the media. And last year, you didn't get that. Last year, I think a first-time head coach, you saw somebody who tried to almost follow in the footsteps of a lot of other coaches in and around the NFL, and especially guys who are doing this now for the first time. And especially when it came to the media stuff, he tried to erect this wall between himself / the organization and the people that cover it. And I understand that to each his own. You do what you do. And there are a lot of fans out there that whenever you entertain a situation like this, fans are going to side with the team, the player, the coach, etc., because they don't like the media for whatever reason. Okay? And here's to what I always say about that. That's on you. You know, you do you. You could choose not to like the media. You could think that they're maybe too tabloidy at times, and some have their agendas, and some just want to tear down and, you know, write or say negative things all the time. And maybe there are some that have agendas, right? I'm not going to sit here and probably try to tell you that there's none of that. But here's what I will say, okay? Here's what I will say. When you're talking to the media, you're talking to your fans, right? The media is that conduit between the fan base and the organization. So if you're going to go out there and put up a front and not maybe be as revealing when you talk to the press, then that means like you don't want your fans to necessarily, you're not inviting your fans in to the house. You know, you're not inviting your fans in to basically tell you what exactly is happening. Like, look, last year, the head coach got picked apart pretty good. And look, when you lose games, it's open season, right? It's open season. You're not going to be able to do anything. If you're 0-7, like they started last year, I mean, you could sit there and cure cancer. They're still going to find ways to come at you. But if you make it harder on yourself, that's when the gloves come off. And that's when they're really going to hunt you down. And that's exactly what happened. And he didn't make things easier on himself last year. You know, playing the secretive games about who the quarterback is, and I'm not telling you, we'll find. I mean, it's not like you had, you know, you weren't choosing between Joe Montana and Steve Young each week. You know, it wasn't one of those. It wasn't Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady who's starting. You know, it was basically eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's what it was. I don't think there was any sort of, you know, gamesmanship advantage if you told the world that Justin Fields is the quarterback or Tyrod Taylor. You know, believe me, the opposing coaches during the week, especially on the defensive side, were getting their 8 hours of sleep each night. Game planning for that offense. Because there was not a lot going on there. And you could say the same thing about the defensive side of the ball, too. And so Jonathan Jones is sitting there and he wants his quotes and he's doing the story and, you know, wants to, you know, figure out why things were so bad last year. And look, as any reporter is going to do, he tracked down, you know, a few of the coaches, the quote unquote, you know, unnamed guys who were on the staff last year. And they, you know, protect their anonymity. And so they'll give you some, you know, what they feel to be juicy quotes. And so you don't reveal who they are, which, okay, whatever. But I'm sure that he got, you know, a hold of somebody like Steve Wilkes, you know, who was made one of the scapegoats during the season last year as the defensive coordinator. And look, you know, verbatim, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, in the article, it said one of the former defensive coaches said something about how, or, you know, the offense would go out there and score 10 points and 13 points, and that was it. And then it was, okay, defense, you know, now you go to work. So well, he's calling out the offense. You know that it was a defensive coach, and it's probably, like I said, the former coordinator who was made to walk the plank before everybody else in the middle of the season. But the defense was horrific last year. And if it was somebody like the former defensive coordinator, a guy who wasn't in the NFL the year before the Jets hired him, and he's not in the NFL the year after the Jets got rid of him. So is it the organization or is it more about the individual in that situation? Look, I'm not sitting here trying to put lipstick on a pig. The defense was not very good last year. I think they were severely lacking talent-wise. The scheme did not do them any favors whatsoever. That's another thing that's going to be on the plate of the head coach now this year, right? and then Aaron Glenn is running this defense, this is all going to be on him. There's no more excuses, right? There's no more this is the reason we're at fault, this and that. It's got to work this year. They brought in guys on that side of the ball that have a relationship with the coach, that have played for him before, that understand this scheme, that know exactly what's to be done. They didn't do that last year, right? They didn't have any of those guys in the huddle last year. Not to mention the fact that, they traded away two of their best defensive players midway through the season last year and got a haul in return, and it was really a no-brainer, but obviously that's going to diminish that side of the football. So that being said, the head coach taking accountability, I get it. You appreciate it, but the only thing that is going to change the conversation, despite the fact you make all these changes with how you go about your business, the coaching staff, the personnel, you got to go out there and prove it on Sundays, right? It's as simple as that. And so from an insider's perspective, outsider's perspective, everything that was wrong with the operation last year, they may have done some fixing. They've tried ways to make it a little bit better, but it may not necessarily lead to dramatic results on the football field. And that's what you want. Maybe this is an uphill battle that Aaron Glenn is facing, and none of us know it, right? Because we got to wait to see how the season plays itself out. Maybe all these changes lead to 2 more wins. After all, you ask Vegas, what's the over-under? 5.5? That's what we're still at for this team? 5.5 wins and losses? That's not a dramatic improvement. If you go through this season with the Jets and you're sitting there looking at a 5-12 football team, and let's say Geno Smith only plays, 10, 11 games. Cade Klubnik plays the rest, but Cade Klubnik really doesn't show you that he's the solution long-term as the starting quarterback. Then where is this team at the end of the season, right? If you're the owner, where are you sitting there at the end of the year? What's your thought process? Am I giving Aaron Glenn a third year? Am I continuing to run it forward with this operation and how we're doing things? I'm going to go draft a quarterback next season with one of my 3 first-round picks, and then you also then have to ask yourself the question, do we have the right people here to develop the quarterback, which is a big one, right? It's a big one. Maybe they're going to feel at the end of the day that it's better to, because there's a lot of prevailing thought that you need an offensive coach whenever you have a young quarterback to develop him. It's got to be an offensive head coach. God forbid. Can't have any knowledge of defense. Got to be offense, right? Even though Josh Allen's development was not exactly thwarted in Buffalo all these years, having a defensive-minded head coach as his coach. Still won an MVP, right? He was doing okay. John Harbaugh is not somebody we would consider to be an offensive coach, but Lamar Jackson won 2 MVPs under his watch and development, or whatever you want to call it. So there's different ways to skin a cat, but it is a legitimate question as to whether or not at the end of the year, if you're going quarterback hunting, do you have the right people in place to be able to bring the best out of them? Because you could talk about identifying a quarterback all you want. Identifying a quarterback really is not necessarily the bigger of the 2 tasks. The bigger one is developing the quarterback. Correct me if I'm wrong, the Jets identified a quarterback back in 2018 with the 3rd overall pick in Sam Darnold, right? He turned out to be okay. Last time I checked, he got a big old fancy Super Bowl ring with the Seattle Seahawks. Played good football for Minnesota the year before that. Went to Seattle, won himself a Super Bowl. They identified that guy, but they couldn't develop him. Therein lies the problem. So we're going to learn a lot this year. A lot about where this thing is headed. And I understand that the expectations are what they are for this team. I really and truly do. Most people aren't expecting much. Most think it's going to be same old Jets, LOL Jets. Aaron Glenn has no idea what he's doing on the sidelines. Until you go out there and prove it, that's what the thought is going to be. And look, when you haven't made the playoffs in 15 years, you have 1 winning season during that stretch, you can't blame people for having that opinion, can you? All right, let's get some calls up here at 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. We're going to say hi to Dave in Brooklyn up next here on ESPN New York. David, how are you?
Hey, Wes, how you doing today?
What's up, Dave? How's things?
Yeah, good. Listen, so you just hit the nail on the head with the Jets, and specifically, it's an organizational issue, right? They had the quarterback in the room and failed to develop him. And that, to me, is just an inability of the organization to identify the right management, to hire the right coaching staff to develop quarterbacks. And even most recently, the Jets are just victims of their own bad decisions. When they had Aaron Rodgers in the locker room, they had opportunities to draft quarterbacks. And even last draft, they had opportunities to draft quarterbacks. And yes, they took Klubnik in the 4th round, but Ty Simpson was sitting there. And I'm not saying he's going to light the world on fire, but when they had Aaron Rodgers, they took players that they thought could help them win now instead of saying, okay, we've got to build a future here because if we don't, we're going to be left nowhere. And right now, the Jets are victims of their own past bad decisions. They're nowhere. We've got Geno Smith. We're predicted to win 5.5 games, which is, I think generous. And then we have a 4th-round quarterback who's a rookie who's probably, years away of that from being meaningful. So it's just continue to be a failed organization. I'm hopeful that by week 8, they're putting in Klubnik and then, finish somewhere in the bottom 3 in the league so that we can at least draft a quarterback.
But Dave, let me ask you a question. You just said, because you said kind of contrasting things. You don't think Klubnik is going to be any good. He's probably a long ways away, but you said by week 8 you hope that he's playing. So, do you want to win games and maybe Geno Smith surprises and this team is functional, average? You know what I mean? Maybe they get to November with a 4-4 record or something like that, and maybe you still have something worth discussing in the second half of the season, or do you just want rock bottom and then you're going to play Cade Klubnik for the final 7-8 games of the season?
Well, that's a great point. So let's just fast forward to, the best case scenario. Geno looks okay. They win 8-9 games perhaps. They're competing for a playoff spot, and they don't make the playoffs. That's maybe the best case. Maybe they slide into the playoffs and win, and lose in the first round. Maybe. Best case. So then they're drafting, 17th or something in the middle of the draft next year, and they miss out on a top-flight quarterback. So they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. I like the idea that they drafted Klubnik, but to go back to my earlier point, when they had Aaron Rodgers, they knew he was a 1-year, 2-year max type player. They should have been drafting quarterbacks then. They should have taken Ty Simpson in the draft this year, even if they had to overshoot for him, because you need to give yourselves more lottery tickets, because until you find the right guy, you're nowhere, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing, Dave, and thanks a lot for the phone call. First of all, and I want to keep reminding people this as we move forward through the football season. Like you said, you can finish middle of the pack, and then you're picking 17th, which is purgatory in that sort of situation. Remember, they got 3 first-round picks. Who's to say their pick is going to be the worst one of the 3, right? I will tell you again, keep an eye on Indianapolis, folks, okay? That is trending backwards. That Indianapolis pick might be your best pick when the draft rolls around next spring. Now, getting to that situation, that's asking a lot. I think that's a little presumptuous by saying that you're going to stay in the playoff hunt all throughout the season. That's asking a lot right now. Given the history and where things have been for the last 15 years, to go ahead and make a quantum leap from a 3-win team to a, 8-9-win team, which is going to be in that wild card conversation, is asking a lot. You gotta walk before you can run, as they say. I think in this situation, watchable football is what any fan will sign up for. Watchable, entertaining football to where you say, hey, maybe this thing is headed in the right direction. Maybe the head coach knows what he's doing. The guys are playing hard for him. Look, last year, every single one of those guys that you talk to in the locker room, for the most part, they all still swore by the head coach, even as the losses were mounting up. But it didn't look like it on the field on Sundays. You know why? Because they didn't have a lot of talent, and they didn't have a lot of good players. And that's why they ended up losing the number of games that they did, because it didn't matter how much they liked the head coach. They just couldn't go out there and do things that they were capable of doing. But that's different this year. The talent is better. So if the head coach supposedly is going to have a handle on this defense, and the guys that they brought in on both sides of the football are going to be a quantum leap compared to the personnel that they were trotting out on the field, especially in the second half of the season, then you might win your share of games. You never know. 800-919-3776, that is the telephone number. And I get it. Look, most fans you talk to, okay, not just on this radio station, but people I meet out and about, whoever it is, whenever they get into a Jet conversation, the majority of them are still not sold on the head coach and are not very optimistic that he's the right guy to turn this thing around, which is a quantum difference from where we were 12 months ago. Because I think every Jet fan in the world wanted this thing to work. And they were enthused about, you got a former Jet, a guy who wanted the job. He's coming in. He's talking a good game. This is the guy, hopefully, that's going to breathe some life into the organization. And then things went completely sideways last year, as bad as they could possibly be. And the opinion soured. I get it. I really and truly get it. And the only way you could go about reversing that is winning football games. See if they could get it done. More of your calls when we return. We're also going to do a little audio files as well. We roll till 1. Grasso with you here on this Thursday on ESPN New York.
D'Agostino, Law, Bite Back. This is John D'Agostino from D'Agostino & Associates. Did you know Social Security takes money out of every paycheck you earn? Paycheck after paycheck. And you're not supposed to touch that money until you're 67? What if you can't work? What if you need that money now? The system is challenging and most people get denied. That's a fact. D'Agostino & Associates has the experience to win, and we win a lot. If you filed for Social Security disability benefits and were denied, let us appeal. Call us first at 1-800-BITE-BACK. Bite Back means fight back. 1-800-248-3222. We'll fight to get you paid. D'Agostino & Associates has offices throughout New York and New Jersey and handles Social Security disability claims and appeals. Remember, if you've been denied, call us first. 1-800-BITE-BACK. That's 1-800-248-3222. D'Agostino & Associates. We win a lot.
At City Harvest, we believe no New Yorker has to go hungry. With your help, we're on the road 365 days a year, rescuing over 77 million pounds of nutritious food and delivering it free to millions of New Yorkers, transforming surplus food into sustenance, sustainability, and smiles, rallying thousands of New Yorkers to power a network of nourishment across our city. One day, one meal, and one New Yorker at a time. That's how we feed good. Donate at cityharvest.org.
Hi, this is Don LaGreca. Just like the New Jersey Devils bring intensity on the ice, Viking Pest Control brings the same level of protection to your home. And I know because I use Viking at my own place. The season may be over, but pests are always in play. So it's time to lock in your off-season defense. As the pest control provider and proud partner of the Devils, Viking delivers 45 years of trusted experience to keep ants, cockroaches, stinging insects, rodents, mosquitoes, and more out of your zone. And when you bundle pest control mosquito services, you score big savings. One call, one company, total peace of mind. Visit VikingPest.com. Protecting your home inside and out.
This is the Michael Kay Show.
The general manager of the New York Giants, that is Joe Schoen. Now, one of the things that have been worked on throughout camp is discretion on the part of Jackson to slide. Do you think he's made strides in that?
You know, you just have to learn. You start coming in every Monday and realizing how bad your body hurts and you feel like you were in a car crash, and half of those hits are, avoidable. And Jackson's a smart kid and understands that, and I think that'll be reflected in his play this year.
The Michael Kay Show, weekdays at 1 on ESPN New York and streaming live on YouTube. Presented by the Parisman Firm.
There are a million reasons to love New York. Making your budget stretch isn't one of them. According to an independent study, Amazon prices average 14% lower than other retailers. Get food, fashion, furniture, and more shipped straight to your building. Plus, another study found Amazon Prescription Pass customers pay nearly 1/3 less out of pocket. Learn more at aboutamazon.com.
The 2026 U.S. Open Tennis Championships are back, where the world's greatest city meets the world's greatest tennis players. Fan Week begins August 23rd. Experience the Mixed Doubles Championship on the 25th and 26th. And the U.S. Open Singles Championship starts Sunday, August 30th. All tickets on sale now at usopen.org. The U.S. Open, spectacular awaits.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day. Every day. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control, all on one platform. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move.
Harry Douglas here to help you get in on the sweet life with Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy. It's that classic throwback cotton candy flavor, but with 0 sugar and a 5-hour energy boost. I keep these with me so I can tackle that sweet tooth with a tasty caffeine kick and no guilty sugary aftermath. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy Shots. Cotton Candy 5-Hour Energy. Available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon.
All right, big news for all the New York sports fans. DiPietro and Rothenberg alongside Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. They are both all coming to MSG Networks. How about that? Starting on Tuesday, September the 8th. That is the day after Labor Day. If you're marking your calendars, you can catch our morning and afternoon shows simulcasted across MSG Networks television and digital platforms. How about that? You can still catch us on 8:80 a.m., the ESPN New York app, YouTube, and more. But we are beyond excited that we start simulcasting on MSG Networks, which are going to give our fans and our shows an even bigger platform to reach the masses. How about that? So don't miss out. It's all starting September the 8th on MSG Networks. Pretty cool stuff indeed. 800-919-3776 is our telephone number. Let us say hi to Bo in New Jersey, who is up next here on ESPN New York. Hello, Bo. What's going on, man?
Hello, Dano. Nice talking to you, man.
Bo!
Listen, next breaking news I want to hear is that... Yo, can you hear me?
Gotcha, baby. What's going on?
I'm here. Oh, man. Listen, the next breaking news I want to hear is more Dan Gross on the radio. How about that? High-level sports talk.
High-level sports talk? I don't know if you get that in droves. I'm sorry.
Hi. Oh, no, you're good. Hey, Aaron Glenn, right? Dan, he was so bad. Do you honestly believe in your heart of hearts that bad can get fixed in a year? To be that bad, he completely looked like he was unqualified for the job.
Do you remember a guy by the name of Bill Parcells, Bo? You remember him, right? Did we lose Bo?
Uh-oh.
I think we lost Bo. Sounded like he turned into a telephone operator there.
Yeah, Bo went bye-bye.
What happened with that, Tom? Was that a technical glitch there?
That is something I've actually never, heard, that specific tone on a phone call before, so I'm assuming that was on Bo's end. Because
little beep, beep, beep?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, we apologize, but we get the gist there from Bo. I bring up Bill Parcells because he's one of many examples. Okay, Bill Parcells' first season when he took over the Giants in 83 when Ray Perkins left to go to Alabama. They won 3 games. They won 3 games his first year. And I'm not saying that Aaron Glenn is a carbon copy, but they won 3 games. He chose a guy by the name of Scott Bruner to be the starting quarterback for the Giants that year over somebody by the name of Philip Sims. Had that one work out, okay? He almost got bagged after year 1. That is how bad it was. Just like everybody was having conversations last year about whether or not the Jets are going to bring Aaron Glenn back or should they bring him back for year 2. That's how bad it was for Bill Parcells. And then Bill Parcells had a look in the mirror moment, a come to Jesus, as they say. And he's like, I'm going to start doing things differently. I'm going to do things my way. Now, I don't know if Aaron Glenn will have that type of a transformation in his second year, but beginning in 1984, the rest was history for the football Giants, who made the playoffs in 84, and then a couple of years after that were Super Bowl champions. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that they're going to have the same exact paths as head coaches, but you know that Glenn is a disciple of one Bill Parcells and is in his, inner circle, if you will, and uses him and values him as a mentor. But that's one example, and like I said, there are many, many others who, for whatever reason, it just didn't work in year number 1, and they didn't have I mean, hey, look at you, and I'm not sitting here trying to make them Vince Lombardi, but if you just want to talk about modern-day coaches, guys who are currently employed right now, go look at Zach Taylor's first 2 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, okay? That's a guy you're wondering, how the hell was he given a third? But you know what he was given? He was given a guy by the name of Joe Burrow, and then all of a sudden they started winning football games. Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny? You get a guy like Joe Burrow, and you start winning games. It's like magic. Hey, we got a quarterback. He's really good, too, and we start winning. Let's see what they get to do this year with this current group of players. Even though you don't have your quote-unquote franchise quarterback. It's a better collection of talent, and let's just see if the head coach, we're going to take him at his own word, learns from his missteps that took place in year number 1. All right, we'll get back to the phones in just a bit. But right now, I want to turn things over to my good friend and yours. His name is Tom. His last name is Bauer. And he has a collection of files that he takes with him home every single day on a flash drive. That's how serious he is about this stuff. And he perfects it all throughout the night. And he tinkers with it. And he makes sure that it is everything the way it has to be. It's a little thing we like to call the audio files.
The audio file.
Are flash drives still even being sold out there? Because the last time I used a flash drive probably had to be in high school or maybe freshman year of college.
I know you use them, Tom, and yes, they are in the black market, and that's why when you're done, perfecting the flash drive, you can put that sucker on eBay and make a couple of bucks off it.
Ooh.
As a relic.
Yeah, who doesn't love physical media?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into a little bit
Maybe
of...
a little floppy disk.
I've...
Do you even know what a floppy disk is? Were you old enough for floppy disks?
I'll be honest, the term was thrown around. They were definitely on sale in Target back in the day, but I don't think I've ever used one floppy disk in my life.
Ray, when was the last time the floppy disk was a thing? Are we talking 20 years maybe?
2006, you think there was floppy disks?
I don't remember. Dude, that's why I said 20 years. I say 20 years, that's a long time.
It might be more.
25.
It could be 25.
The floppy disk, is that a cousin of the DVD?
Yeah, totally different.
Oh, totally different.
Totally different. The DVD and the CD are related cousins.
Yes.
Yeah.
No floppy disk involved in the family, though.
Floppy is, you're in like CompUSA territory there.
That's interesting.
Is that still a thing, CompUSA?
Now you completely lost me. You had me at floppy disk, but you didn't have me at CompUSA.
CompUSA. We lived in a world where we had about like 90 of those stores that basically all sold the same thing, and somehow they all stayed in business for a period of time, which was probably a lot longer than we gave them credit for. Right? There was Office Max, there was Office Depot, there was CompUSA, there was Staples. There still is Staples, though, right?
Yeah, Staples is still around.
Staples.
Yeah. So Staples basically like outlasted them all. They flexed their office supply muscle on everybody else.
Tell you what. Staples once had a center. It was out in L.A.
That's true. And then they got bought out on the naming rights there.
Yeah, that's right. Now
so
it
yeah,
belongs to
you had your pick of the litter for all that type of garbage that you needed.
And
then Amazon came over and said, "Now we'll just take it from here."
Yeah.
Radio Shack, America's Technologies. Remember Howie Long used to do all those Radio Shack commercials? Cash and checks.
How about Circuit City?
Well, that was more like the Best Buy, Circuit City, the electronics, Giant.
Wiz.
You got a TV.
The Wiz.
Oh, nobody beats the Wiz. But the Wiz petered out a lot sooner than Circuit City did. No, that was living, man. Those are the days.
Yeah, I only got to live in a little bit of those days before, technology and digital everything took over.
It was less fun.
But you know what? We're looking back nostalgic. That makes people feel a little optimistic about the past, if that's even a thing. I'm trying to do a natural transition into this cut here, and that probably didn't work.
No, I smelled what you were cooking there.
Oh, I'm glad that you smelled it. Now let's actually cook it. So Buster Olney, we're going to hear from Steve Cohen in a little bit, by the way, from his press conference yesterday. Had a few things to tell the media, and one of those things was that he felt a little bit optimistic about, or not a little bit, he felt pretty optimistic about the Mets looking into the future. And Buster Olney, believe it or not, was asked before Steve Cohen's press conference whether Mets fans should be feeling optimistic. And this is what he had to tell DNR yesterday.
they definitely have there are some embers that you're going to build with going forward from what has been a total disaster. And you can look at, some of these pieces and say, this is the best thing that's going to come out of 2026. It's the only thing that's going to come out of 2026, right? Your manager's been fired. You're having your worst season since more than 30 years. But in the end, to see Benj in the way that he's evolved, the idea, think about how crazy it would have sounded in the first week of the season. We'd say, yeah, Benj is going to be your cleanup hitter in mid-August. And it says a lot about him. And I think teams always, club executives will always talk about, we want to see guys have some struggles and learn how to work through those. And so to see Nolan McLean, go through that, you're 100% right. There are definitely some pieces and parts that you feel really good about as you go forward.
There's a few pieces, but primarily there was just Carson Benj, which tells me I'm not too excited about too much else, at least not yet.
Well, there's Benj, there's Ewing, there's a guy by the name of Juan Soto who I heard is pretty good at baseball, who, not going anywhere. Obviously, Nolan McLean and Christian Scott and, a healthy Lindor next year. Let's be real. In baseball, all you have to be is competent to still actually have meaningful games worth watching this time of the season. And as we know with them, the season went completely sideways, thanks in part to some of the moves that the brilliant general manager made last offseason.
That's right. And unfortunately, competence went out the window once May rolled around for the Mets.
You want to roll around? You want to roll out, Tom, the season-ending statistics of Jorge Polanco, who's going to be going under the knife? Were you going to mention that at all, or no?
I wasn't, but now that you mentioned Jorge Polanco, I'm very interested in what his season-ending stats were.
Here's Jorge Polanco's season, now that it's going to be coming to an end, because he's going to go under the knife for that, pesky bursitis in his ankle. He will finish the season with a robust WAR of minus, which is really hard to do, minus 1.4. He will have played in a grand total of 37 games, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, batting 148 with a just an astronomical OPS of 431. And mind you, the baseball genius last offseason said, we don't need to keep a first baseman who basically has not missed a game in like 3 years. Instead, here's what I'm going to do, because I'm smarter than the average bear. I'm going to take a guy who's never played first base before. Never.
Hey, listen.
Never.
Listen here. In Jorge Polanco's credit, he's got 2 more home runs on the season than Pete Alonso did last night.
Never played first base before, and I'm going to give him not a 1, but a 2-year deal guaranteed for $40 million, and I'll show you what production at first base is going to be. So here's all I know. You don't got to spend tens of thousands, or I should say hundreds of thousands of dollars for a Harvard education to be able to, you could go to your local community college, okay? And, take out a loan or whatever you got to do. You could go to the University of Phoenix online to figure out that, Jorge Polanco was not going to be able to match the production that you got from Pete Alonso at first base, and this blew up spectacularly. How about that?
I didn't know they were teaching baseball at the University of Phoenix.
No,
they have to look into that.
They have courses, absolutely, yeah. It's part of their statistics program, yeah.
Because they play baseball out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Statistics and probability. No, but you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to be a resident there. You could, from anywhere in the United States. It's an online school.
All right, good for them. Now, I'm very intrigued by this whole Dodgers fracas that's going on. Are you, by any chance, interested in everything that's going on out there?
How can you not be? Forget about on the field, they have some high-profile signings that have blown up in their face this year, but it's not hurting them in the standings. I'm more focused as to what's happening off the field, like in the owner's box, which is going to get pretty interesting, and already has over the next several months and maybe year. Who knows?
That's right. Now, I am going to steal one Steve Cohen cut for you right here, just so that way we can have a local transition into the story.
Okay.
Steve Cohen was asked about Mark Walters and everything that's going on out there.
Listen, I read what you read. It's an investigation. Don't really know exactly, where it's going. I hope, Mark can figure it out and put it behind him. Dodgers are still a strong team. They have strong revenues, solid process. I think Dodgers are going to continue to be a good team.
Congratulations. Now that we got the local angle from Steve Cohen, now let's focus on the national angle there. Are they actually going to be for sale? And that's something that Ty Butler asked Ramona Shelburne, who's been all over everything that's going on with Mark Walters. He asked her that yesterday, filling in for Chris Carlin on this very show.
They're not for sale. If you ask anyone with the Dodgers or close to Mark, etc., they're going to say the Dodgers are not for sale, but the Lakers weren't for sale either. It's not going to stop people from calling if they want to make an offer. Now, I think the Dodgers really aren't for sale, and I think that it would take an unsolicited, really high valuation to even get his attention on selling the Dodgers. You have to remember, he's owned them since 2012. There's a lot more connective tissue and emotional connection to the Dodgers. This is a team he's owned for 14 years and won titles with and won 2 World Series back-to-back. There's been a lot more emotional investment, and I don't think that any offer would come in at the kind of valuation in such a, that would offer him such a profit, et cetera, that he would really take it, unless somebody really overpaid. I don't know if anyone would come in like that, especially on a baseball team, which is not as profitable or lucrative of a sport right now and is facing a potential lockout. So I just don't see that happening, and I think he stays put with the Dodgers.
Well, let me respectfully add this, though. Okay, you could say all those things about whether it's not for sale and whether or not, what his piggy bank is going to look like. But when you factor in another important element to this whole drama, which is when the Security and Exchange Commission has launched an investigation into your handlings for possible fraud, all bets are off. It's not too often, and you could fact check it for me, when it comes to professional sports teams right now in the United States, North America, whatever, I don't know too many people that buy a sports franchise for billions of dollars only to turn around and sell them 10 months later. That's not like doing it for sport, no pun intended. It's not a hobby, just to make a $2.5 billion profit. That's not why Mark Walter bought the Los Angeles Lakers until they actually had to sell them. Why did he sell off his shares of Chelsea in the English Premier League? You just woke up one morning and decided, you know what? I have all this stuff. I don't need it anymore. Kids are out of the house. Let me unload some of my assets. No. But when the government is breathing down your neck for fraud, and you could be spending the rest of your days wearing an orange jumpsuit in shackles, you need some quick cash. You need to sell off and to take care of all of these maybe deficiencies that you've been going on behind the scenes with your business. That's when suddenly a team becomes for sale. So what's ironic about this, Tom, is that prior to Mark Walter and the Guggenheim people buying the Los Angeles Dodgers, I'm sure that, baseball fans remember, the Dodgers' prior owner was a guy by the name of Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt was found out to be one big charlatan after a while, and they had to declare bankruptcy. Frank McCourt was legitimately the guy who was writing checks that he couldn't cash and somehow conned his way into being awarded the Los Angeles Dodgers to the point where, and you can go back and look at this, remember, there was a time where they did not even know if, he was having a hard time making payroll week in and week out. That's how bad things were getting until they finally realized, you're a phony. And they booted him the hell out of there, him and his wife, which I don't think the marriage is still together, sadly enough. Whenever you have to part ways with a sports franchise, the marriage never lasts. They say true love is endless until you find out to be a fraud and you have to part ways with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Anyway, but it's ironic how you just came off of Frank McCourt, and then you have a decade or so of prosperity. You're winning World Series left and right, and all of a sudden, again, you got an owner whose wealth and his insurance companies and all this stuff from Wall Street turns out to be a little fraudulent. Where did the $16 billion in loans for TWG Global somehow getting channeled through a third party? How did that come about? Well, that's what the government wants answers to right now. That's how the Dodgers become for sale suddenly. Continue, Tom.
Oh, that's all I have for you right now.
That's it.
That was a wonderful breakdown about the Dodgers, though.
It's important. And yes, so I don't care if you're a Met fan, a Yankee fan, whatever. All those shiny toys that the Dodgers have on their roster right now, by the way, even a guy like Shohei Ohtani, they may not be Dodgers if this whole thing turns out a certain way. And there's actually a clause in Ohtani's contract. Right, Ray? There is a clause in his contract that says if Mark Walter does not own the Dodgers, and you think about throwing, I have some screwy stuff in my deal, and I'm not Shohei Ohtani. They're just how did you think of that? If Mark Walter is not the owner of the Dodgers, what's the stipulation? That Ohtani could be moved or opt out of his deal like within X amount of time?
He can opt out if Mark Walter is not the owner or Andrew Friedman is not the president.
How about that? How about that? Let me put it to you this way. If you're a Dodger fan, you better hope that you cash in on this World Series run in 2026 and are able to make it a three-peat, because it might be a long time before you get back in that circle again if things play out a certain way. Sold the Lakers, sold shares of a profitable team in the English Premier League. What's the next domino to fall? Like I said, you just don't wake up in the morning and decide to sell off this stuff. You know? It's in a used car that's sitting in your driveway that you don't drive as much anymore, and you're going to stick a for sale sign in the back window just because you don't need it anymore. You know, you're trying to free up some space.
TLC this fall, sports flippers, right at their house flippers.
Exactly. Flip this house, flip this franchise. Oh, my gosh. 800-919-3776. Tom brought up Steve Cohen. You heard a little bit from. We got to get into him as well. Plus your football calls. We roll till 1. Then it's the K Show right here on ESPN New York.
ESPN New York and MSG Network are joining forces.
Big news, Jazz hands.
Start your mornings with DiPietro and Rothenberg, live on the MSG Network. Then stick around for Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg, live on MSG every afternoon.
We are beyond excited to start simulcasting on MSG Networks.
So think about this real quick second. You got us in the morning 6 to 10. You got our afternoon show 3 to 7. And then right after that, you're talking Knicks, you're talking Rangers.
Oh, yeah. You wake up, you pop it on again, and there we are, waiting for you. Good morning.
ESPN New York and MSG Network, together like never before. It all starts Tuesday, September 8th.
Prizes, flyaways, even cash money. You want it? We've got it. Find a list of all contests and official rules by visiting ESPNNewYorkContests.com.
That's ESPNNewYorkContests.com.
There you were, surrounded by fans. Everybody remembers the game. Nobody remembers the guy coughing behind you. Till a few days later, at 2 a.m., you wake up with a fever and your throat's on fire. Now what? Urgent care? Closed. ER? Slammed. Telehealth? Maybe, but the pharmacy's closed. You needed a medical emergency kit. These aren't first aid kits. They contain essential prescriptions used for over 30 common conditions. Sinus and ear infection, UTIs, stomach bugs, traveler's diarrhea, and more on hand before you need them. Use your doctor-developed guidebook to select the right prescription or call their telemedicine doctor standing by. It's like an urgent care and drugstore at home. When you're sick, traveling, or stranded, you'll wish you'd ordered a medical emergency kit. Order online in minutes and it's shipped to your door. And save $45 with my promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880. That's promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880.
Hey, New York and New Jersey, Boost Mobile has an unlimited talk, text, and data plan that's only $25 a month forever, meaning you'll only ever pay $25 a month for the rest of your life. Who wouldn't want unlimited wireless when it only costs $25 a month forever? If you don't, you must be one of those people who enjoy overpaying for their phone plan. $25 a month forever is truly as good as it gets. So go online and switch now at boostmobile.com. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
If you've been injured on a construction site, then you need a lawyer who knows New York's unique labor laws. At the Parisman Firm, they have decades of experience handling construction accident cases and a proven track record of delivering huge results. Their team has already recovered nearly $1 billion for hardworking New Yorkers. From scaffold accidents to slip and falls and equipment failures, they've got your back. Call the Parisman Firm now at 718-WORKERS. That's right, 718-WORKERS, because your case is their cause. Get the justice you deserve today.
Are you ready to make a difference for the environment while helping the visually impaired at the same time? Then donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind today by calling 1-800-983-6530. Every donated vehicle will either be properly recycled in an eco-friendly manner or given a new life through reuse. Donating your vehicle is easy. Simply call 1-800-983-6530 and Heritage for the Blind will do the rest. They'll even arrange for your vehicle to be picked up at no cost to you. And for a limited time, when you donate your car, you'll receive a $200 restaurant voucher and a 2-night, 3-day hotel stay at one of 50 locations. Call 1-800-983-6530 right now to schedule your vehicle donation and make a positive impact on the environment while helping others. Heritage for the Blind, where every car donation counts and every person makes a difference. Call 1-800-983-6530 now. This advertisement is paid for by Heritage for the Blind.
Congratulations, New York. The Knicks did it. Through battle after battle, they dominated to become this year's NBA champions. Day in and day out, the hard work paid off, and you were there every step of the way. Enjoy the crown. Own it, because this year is your year. A part of your legacy that will never be forgotten. So celebrate this moment, show your pride, and shop the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
800-919-3776. Grassa with you on this Thursday. It's ESPN New York. Giants and Dolphins practice has come to a conclusion down in Miami, so we'll hear from the particulars. And a little feisty out there today. Got Abdul Carter. Reports are, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jameis Winston getting into it with some of the Miami Dolphins. I'm sure Coach Harbaugh will have stuff to say about that, and we will bring that to you before we are done a little bit later on. Let's go back to the phones and say hi to Stevie in Long Island up next here on ESPN New York. Steve, how we doing this morning?
What's up, boys? How's everything going?
Steve, things are good, man. How about you? What's going on your end?
Can't complain. Weather's good right now. I think it's going to rain soon, but I just wanted to talk about the Mets, I like the direction we're going. I wasn't too happy about the trades at the deadline for some of the guys we still had control under for next year, like Weaver. But the guy we got from them, he's hitting the ball pretty well, and everything's looking good. So I just think Kodai Senga becoming the closer again too was a big change, and I think that's something that Mendoza really screwed up on. Is when things aren't working, you got to change it, and at least that's what Green's doing. So.
Yeah, here's the thing, though, Steve, and we'll never get a definitive answer on this, and thanks a lot for the phone call. The Mets have had a tendency to do this. Look, they do this because they've had a lot of years where they weren't very good. I mean, go back and check the history. You don't have to be a genius to figure it out. But it's a lot easier to go out there and play loose, free, when the pressure is off, right? Because think about the first 3.5 months of the season when they basically were digging their own grave. They weren't getting the results. The fans were impatient. People like us on the radio were letting them have it. I mean, even at home, they're getting booed nonstop, and they can feel it. Throw in the pressure of trying to perform in New York, especially with all the new faces they brought in. And look, that is one of the faults of the past offseason, is the drastic overhaul that they made to the roster. If you want to gradually make changes over a 2-3 year period, fine. David Stearns took a sledgehammer to the roster and the core of the team. And tried to replace it all in one offseason and expect those results to fire. And hardly none of them have. And you add all that up, and that's how you play yourself out of contention over the first half of a baseball season. Now, there's more to say about the Mets. Yes, the best thing you could say about this version right now on August the 20th is that they're a watchable baseball team. They really are. The young guys are playing. They're having, what Carson Bench did the other night and, throwing out the consecutive hitters or the consecutive runners at the plate, A.J. Ewing following suit, 1 inning later. That was fun. That's a part of baseball. That gets you up out of your seat when you gun down guys at the plate like that. You can impact games with your arm, with your glove. It's not just what you do with the dish. This is, there's kind of like a fresh enthusiasm with this team, but it's not going to mean much in 2026 because the season, their fate has already been sealed. But what is this now going to mean moving forward for them? Have they stumbled on something? And, even a guy like Andy Green, what does this mean for his future? He says he wants to go back to the front office. He doesn't want to be a manager day in and day out. He's kind of just minding the store till the end of the year. That was the agreement they made. I don't know. I certainly think he merits consideration for what he's been able to get this team to do, especially with not exactly the same full roster that they envisioned having at the beginning of the season. 800-919-3776. Quick timeout. We got a big final hour in store for you. We'll get back to the football. We'll hear from the Giants now that practice is over down in Miami. We will hear from Steve Cohen and some of the comments he made yesterday before the Mets-Padres game, plus your calls, plus a sideline to sideline. We'll see if we can jam it all under the final 60 minutes. Grassa with you on this Thursday. It's ESPN New York.
When you manage an active facility, disruption is not an option. Tricon Construction specializes in healthcare, commercial, and industrial environments where work needs to happen without shutting operations down. That takes detailed planning, clear communication, and safe, disciplined execution. Because when patients are inside, tenants are working, or production has to keep moving, every decision matters. Tricon understands how to work around your business professionally, safely, and efficiently. For complex work inside active facilities, choose Tricon Construction. Visit triconbuilds.com. That's triconbuilds.com.
ESPN New York, now streaming live on YouTube. Subscribe today and watch the show. WHSQ and WCBS-FM HD2, New York.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather, new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends. Uline works hard keeping 41,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
Hey, it's Peter Rosenberg. This summer, I made a decision. Instead of just living with my pain, I wanted to find out what was actually causing it. That's why I went to see Dr. Jay Shah at Samwell Pain. What I liked right away was his approach. He takes the time to understand what's going on and builds a treatment plan that's right for you without jumping straight to surgery. If you're dealing with back pain, neck pain, sciatica, or joint pain, it's worth having the conversation. With offices in Woodbridge, Livingston, and Inglewood, getting care is convenient no matter where you are. Go to samwellpain.com to learn more or schedule an appointment.
Hey, it's Michael K. Not sleeping? Well, it could be your mattress. At PC Richard & Son, they don't just sell you a mattress. Their experts use a 4-step mattress fitting process so that your new bed fits you perfectly. They guarantee it. And in-home delivery on any mattress $399 and up, it's free. Come in for a complimentary mattress consultation and get a free travel neck pillow, no purchase required. So do what I do and get to PC Richard & Son today for your new mattress. Free delivery excludes Manhattan.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/play. That's ethos.com/play. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Less than 4 in 10 kids aged 6 through 12 are playing sports regularly. 4 in 10 kids? Let it sink in. Just 4 in 10 kids. ESPN is building a nationwide coalition powered by Disney called Take Back Sports, with the purpose of training more coaches, expanding access, and creating community-driven sports programming that puts kids and fun first. We're working on that story. We hope you'll join us.
Visit takebacksports.org to learn more.
All right, hour number 3. Boy, this is you talk about flying on by. This show is at like warp speed today. Warp speed. Grassa in for Christopher today. He'll be back on Monday at 800-919-3776. The telephone number at Dan Grassa. You can get me on the socials. Ray and Tom hanging out with us. We'll have a little sideline to sideline later on this evening. I mean, we've been all over the map. Started off with the Yankees and that, I guess you could say, somewhat thrilling victory last night in Baltimore. Getting a little bit of a break on the, was it a home run? Was it not a home run? Pete Alonso blast in the 7th inning, and Yanks took it and made good with it the next half inning and scratched a couple of runs across and made that 2-run lead hold up. And they've won their 3rd in a row. They'll go for the sweep a little bit later on tonight with Garrett Cole on the mound for the Bombers before they come back home to begin a 10-game important homestand against the likes of the Jays, the Stros, and the Boston Red Sox. Giants finishing up practice with the Miami Dolphins down in South Beach, and they'll play a football game against one another coming up on Saturday afternoon. Jets are heading to Pittsburgh today, where they will take on the Steelers tomorrow night in preseason game number 2. Will Geno Smith play? Will he not play? Sounds like the Jets might go ahead and exercise caution yet again, which means you're going to see a lot of Cade Klubnik on the field again tomorrow night. See the rookie, get him some experience, get him some reps, and see if he can ingrain himself to, hey, possibly being just one snap away from having to take over at any point during the season, if he indeed is going to be the backup quarterback. I still think, in a perfect world, if you're Darren Muji, you go out there and you try to swing a deal for some sort of a backup quarterback, a veteran, I should say, to come in here and add him to the room. And that'll transpire, I think, over the next couple of weeks when teams start to make cuts and teams look at their rooms and say, okay, well, this guy is expendable depending on how things kind of look. Some teams only keep 2 quarterbacks. Let's face it. Some only keep 2 because they feel that they have a crunch and a need at other positions on the roster, and they're going to use a roster spot for one of them as opposed to maybe just keeping an extra quarterback who really has no factor in what they're going to do this season. So you're going to see guys become a little bit more expendable, and maybe the Jets will take advantage of that situation. Let's go to the phones at 800-919-3776 and say hi to our good buddy David in Elizabeth, who is up next here on ESPN New York. Hello, D. How are you?
Rasa, what it do, baby?
David, what's going on, man?
Same old, man. Jet delusion. You know me, brother. I'm delusional when it comes to the green and white, and I'm never going to give up on it.
Jet delusion. Man, a tale as old as time, right. Especially in the month of August.
Oh, what? Oh, yeah, man. You already know. Around May, I start getting delusional. But, yeah, here we are now. But, yeah. So check this out, Dan, man. I'm crazy optimistic about this season. I know a lot of people say that we're not going to be able to do this and we'll be able to do that. But I think if Geno Smith could go out there, be compatible, gel with the fellas, because I'm really excited about this new offense and some of the new pieces and ingredients that our friend Peanut Chew, a.k.a. Aaron Glenn, has to play with. Like, I think they could make some noise, man. I'm sorry, I'm delusional. I think they could make noise. I don't know about postseason. I don't know about a wild card spot. All I want to say is I think they can make noise. I'm loving the Cade Brigade. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. He's running with the ones during camp. So, you know, there's some positivity going on there. But I think Muji is going to take a page from your book, then, and he is going to probably sign a veteran replacement just in case if something happens, because our organization is known for some discrepancies and mishaps when it comes to that quarterback position. So I think they're going to play it safe and have 3 on the roster. And we'll see what happens, man. I'm just hoping for good things, and I just want to see my neophytes progress, man.
Dave, let me ask you a question. Give me a definition when you say, I think they can make noise. What's making noise?
6 games, 7 games, wins. Or at least if we come up short, they competed. They showed you something. They were on the right trajectory. You give me that, I'm happy. I see Jets in the hunt. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. That's basically where I'm coming out with this because, you know, there's so many scenarios and so many people want us to do some of the same things to get the same results. Like, for example, this Baker Mayfield situation. Oh, you know, Baker didn't get a contract. You know, Muji should look into it. I agree, but I want to do this the organic way, like how some of the teams, like the Broncos, they got Bo Nix. I'm not saying Bo Nix is the next Messiah or the next thing since sliced bread, but look at him. Look at the way he's come out. Look at Jackson Dart. I just want us to do this organically. Like, you know, they got some ingredients. They can make a meal now. So there's no excuses for Peanut Chew. And remember what he said. Play calling is a superpower. So I'd like to see some of his mutant powers.
That's not asking too much. I mean, Dave, it's not asking too much. And thanks a lot for the phone call. You know, making noise.
Yes, sir.
Making noise, you say, competency. You know, is that too much to ask? Like what David said, he used the in the hunt analogy. And I always bring that up, right? You're watching a game, November, whatever it might be, into December, and they'll flash the standings up on the screen, right? They'll tell you the division leaders, teams currently in wild card contention, and then you have the in the hunt. Teams who are knocking on the door. Why can't they be an in the hunt team? I know that that's not the end-all, be-all, but it's baby steps. It's progress. It's growth. I mean, think about how many damn teams they put in the hunt. I said it the other day. I'm watching Sunday Night Baseball. I can't remember if it was this past Sunday or the week before. And they list the wild card standings in the National League. And they had the freaking Mets up there. They were the last team in the so-called in the hunt, and we know that the Mets aren't making the playoffs, but think about that. The Mets could be included in the conversation. Now, you mean to tell me the Jets can't be at least the football equivalent of in the hunt? Be average? That's not saying a lot. You can't find 5 wins before you go into December? Just 5? Give me something, anything. Gentleman who writes for The Athletic, guy by the name of Austin Mock. He's got a projection, a model, as some like to call it, crunching numbers, weighing certain variables as to how teams are going to perform for the upcoming season. He did the AFC. And his so-called model falls right in line with what most perceive the Jets season to be. Right around 5.5 wins. He's got the Jets at 5.6. Now, I don't know how you get 0.6 of a win, but, we'll take it, right? Hey, you bet the 5.5. If they win 5.6, Ray, you're cashing those chips. But the only teams, according to his model, in the AFC that he has lower than the Jets are the Browns and the Dolphins. And I don't think that is shooting for the stars. He's got Cleveland at 5.3 and Miami at 4.5. Miami's going to be one of the worst teams in football. Miami, Arizona, I think those are going to be the head of the class as far as the race for the number 1 pick. Cleveland could have a thing or two to say about it. I think that's fair. Right above the Jets, he has Tennessee at 5.8. And that's interesting because, again, you don't like to make too much of one game, but the Jets and Titans in week number 1, I think, is going to tell us a lot about what direction this season is going to go. Right? You want to be able to pocket that first victory before you then hit the run against the NFC North teams in weeks 2, 3, and 4 with Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago. Before you get a Browns team in week number 5. There's an opportunity. I mean, I'm tired of saying this. I can't wait till we just play the games, but there are an opportunity for some wins in those first 8 games of the season. Raiders, Dolphins, Browns, Titans, winnable football games. Now they have to go out there and execute. Now, earlier, Tom played a cut there of Steve Cohen. Tom, refresh my memory. The one that you played was about the Mark Walters investigation, correct?
Oh, that's right. The issues pertaining to the Dodgers and one Mark Walters.
Excellent. So, the Met owner held court in the dugout yesterday before the game. And he said he was going to speak, remember, after the trade deadline and everything that went on. But he wanted to let it breathe and give it some time. So yesterday he decided to speak. We know that the Mets have played good baseball since the deadline. They're 11-4. They've got one of the best records in the sport since they officially started to pair off this roster. And because of the youth and because of the way that they've been playing of late, the owner, for one, says that he's more optimistic about next year.
Well, listen, this year wasn't great, right? And so, yes, it is a small sample. But, underneath, I think there's a lot of things to kind of be excited by. The development of our young players is significant. That creates a nice foundation for next year. It'd be great if we can get Soto and Lindor on the field at the same time, right? That'd be kind of fun to see, and have them play a full season together. That's impactful, obviously impactful. And having Francisco back, you can see the energy that comes back and, what a great player he is. And I think, getting him on the field really matters. A lot of players, we've had new players and they've adjusted to New York and you can imagine them feeling much more comfortable next year. And so I think there's a lot to look forward to here. I see the foundation of something that I think we can get behind, but we'll see how it goes, right? I'm getting more optimistic. I like what I see and hopefully it continues.
It's 15 games, okay? Like I said, they become watchable, right? They are a better product, at least as of now. I think even as a fan, when you watch these games, you're not sitting there getting as frustrated with every swing and miss or with every, missed play in the field or whatever happens, because you realize that these games, don't have any sort of significance for what this team was supposed to be. But if you think back to you think about what this owner is saying now about how the team has played over the last few weeks, that is a far, far cry from what the original intent was at the beginning of the season. When you have a $380 million payroll, when you're coming off a season last year, which was mightily disappointing, right? A huge disappointment that they didn't even make the playoffs. This team was put together to compete and to do big things in October. Okay, that is why you have one of the highest payrolls. It wasn't just about, let's see if we could sneak into the playoffs. That's not what this season was. Okay, this season has gone horribly wrong. There is nothing that they can do from now till the end of the season that you can sit there and say it has shaped and changed the narrative of what the 2026 Mets were. This season will always be looked at as a complete and utter failure, regardless. Okay, they could go out there and play .600 baseball the rest of the season. It doesn't matter. All right, they're going to miss out on the playoffs, and it's going to be $380 million that went to waste. And that you have guys on this team that you thought were going to be important contributors for you who are now wearing other uniforms and are now trying to help those teams make the playoffs. And that was not supposed to be the case. All right, when you're sitting here looking for a scapegoat, who to blame, who should that be? Well, of course it's all going to center on David Stearns. He's the one who put the team together. Are you still committed to him moving forward?
I'm committed to David. I've said that before. We're going to move forward, and I thought we had a great trade deadline. David is smart. He knows what he's doing. He's very adaptable. He learns from mistakes, and that's what I want in a leader.
Here's the problem with the thought we had a great trade deadline. Again, small sample size. To sit here on August, well, he talked yesterday, so August 19th, right, which is a little over 2 weeks past the deadline. How can you sit here and evaluate a trade deadline, right? Considering that, number one, you were sellers, right? It's not like you brought in veterans to help you for the stretch drive. Yoenis Cespedes is not now wearing a Met uniform that you got at the beginning of August because he's going to help power you to the playoffs like it's 2015 all over again. That's not happening. You sold off guys in exchange for prospects who are all basically in the minor leagues, not helping the New York Mets big club right now. Saying that you had a good trade deadline 2 weeks after the trade deadline is like right after the NFL draft, grading a draft the next morning. It's ridiculous. Can they play a game first? Can these guys show up in the big leagues and see what they are or what they aren't? And again, you're trying to sell hope. I get it. When you own a team, I said it earlier in the program about when a head coach addresses the media. Right? You are selling information to your fans. You are trying to provide hope for your fans. And that's why when coaches, players pick these battles with the media, that's not doing you any favors with your business in trying to attract attention. So, of course, he's going to sit there and try to put a positive spin on everything. And, all right, they're a fun little team now. They're a much more watchable team, but it's still not the way this season was envisioned to go. And when they mapped this whole thing out in the offseason and they had their meetings down in Florida or at Citi Field or whatever it was, and they put on the whiteboard, all right, here's our plan for this year. This is where we envision ourselves to be. Nobody expected themselves in late August to be sellers at the deadline and to be in last place in the National League East. Nobody did. And you know what? You could say you're committed to David Stearns, great, but he better fix this thing in a hurry, because if he has another zero offseason like he did last winter, I don't know how you could sit there and pledge allegiance to a guy who probably seems like he's over his head a little bit. Would you consider bringing back Andy Green as your manager?
Well, I'm going to take him at face value. He's telling us that he wants to go back to, the front office. And so we're going to do a managerial search, and if it turns out he wants to throw his hat to the ring, that'll be great.
All right. Like I said, Andy Green, to me, is the least of the Mets' concerns. If you went into next season and you told a Met fan, hey, you know what? Andy Green's going to be your manager. What are your thoughts? They're not going to scream bloody murder. They're not going to sit here and say, you know what, the Mets have no chance because Andy Green is the manager. right? I mean, how about get better players? That's what you need right now. I don't care who it is. Better. I mean, Carlos Mendoza would still be the manager of this team if the guys that they brought in during the offseason went out there and actually played competent baseball, right? If Jorge Polanco was not a complete zero at first base, if Luis Robert was not a complete zero in the outfield, which ironically enough, Luis Robert missing basically the whole first half of the season allowed A.J. Ewing to come up and gave Carson Benj more of an opportunity to work through his early struggles and to play each and every day. You know, Soto being hurt for chunks, Lindor missing a considerable amount of time in the first half of the season, on and on and on and on and on. You know, maybe this sets them up for the future, but they did it kind of unintentionally. The thing I'll say about Andy Green is that Andy Green at least has experience, not just as a big league manager. He's got experience now with a lot of guys who you figure to make up this team in 2027 and beyond. And who knows what type of shape 2027 is going to be in terms of a baseball season, right? You got to get that whole CBA thing figured out. But Andy Green knows a lot of the guys who are on this team now from their time in the Mets minor league system and coming up through the ranks. He had dealings with them then, and now he gets to manage them on the big league level. If you told me that he's the manager in 27 and they decide not to go the Carlos Beltran route or Albert Pujols, how can you have any issue with that, right? Because each and every person that's going to sit here and pound the table and say, oh, they need somebody with legitimacy and credibility. You know, that's why you got to get Pujols. You got to get Beltran. What legitimacy or credibility do they have as managers? You know, if you say hire Albert Pujols, guess what? Albert Pujols is not batting cleanup for the Mets, and he's, 25 years old all over again. You're not getting that Albert Pujols. You're getting a manager who's never managed a game in the major leagues. Carlos Beltran, same thing. He might be in the Hall of Fame, but he's never managed a game in the big leagues. He had the job as the Mets manager for a couple of weeks, and then he had to give it up because of some stuff that he was doing with garbage cans with the Houston Astros, but we don't know if he can manage, right? And who knows if Alex Cora is even going to pick the Mets. Alex Cora is going to have options. He might end up right down the turnpike in Philadelphia with his old buddy Dave Dombrowski and try to run it back like they did in their Red Sox days. So there's going to be competition for the job. But if you have somebody already who's under your watch, and again, a lot of this is going to be on Andy Green. It's going to be a two-way street. He says he wants to go back to the front office. That's very well his prerogative. He has every right to do so. But if I'm the Mets, I wouldn't just pass that off as saying, okay, fine, we'll look elsewhere. Maybe it's worth a little bit of an extra conversation because he's got these guys playing hard. And one of the knocks against Carlos Mendoza earlier this year, when the Mets were floundering, is that he didn't have these guys out there necessarily giving it their all each and every game. The mental lapses in the field, right? Checking out at times. And maybe the manager not holding guys accountable enough as some fans maybe wanted him to. Well, we haven't heard a lot of that with Andy Green in tow. And even if he is somebody who's minding the store or whatever it is until they get a permanent fixture in the manager's office, what's the old saying? Maybe that guy is right underneath your nose already and you have no idea. 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. So the Mets are off today. They'll be back at it tomorrow to begin a weekend series in Chi-Town against the White Sox, the Southsiders in the American League, seeing if they can play spoiler to another prospective playoff team as they sit in first place in the American League Central. Quick timeout. When we come back, we are going to once again hear from our good buddy, Tom Bauer, because it is football season. Week 2 of the preseason kicks off tonight, and we'll give you a little sideline to sideline. That is next. Grasso with you here on ESPN New York.
ESPN New York and MSG Network are joining forces.
Big news, Jazz hands.
Start your mornings with DiPietro and Rothenberg, live on the MSG Network. Then stick around for Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg, live on MSG every afternoon.
We are beyond excited to start simulcasting on MSG Networks.
So think about this for a quick second. You got us in the morning 6 to 10. You got our afternoon show 3 to 7. And then right after that, you're talking Knicks, you're talking Rangers.
Yo, yeah. You wake up, you pop it on again, and there we are, waiting for you. Good morning.
ESPN New York and MSG Network, together like never before. It all starts Tuesday, September 8th.
There you were, surrounded by fans. Everybody remembers the game. Nobody remembers the guy coughing behind you. Till a few days later, at 2 a.m., you wake up with a fever and your throat's on fire. Now what? Urgent care? Closed. ER? Slammed. Telehealth? Maybe, but the pharmacy's closed. You needed a medical emergency kit. These aren't first aid kits. They contain essential prescriptions used for over 30 common conditions. Sinus and ear infection, UTIs, stomach bugs, traveler's diarrhea, and more on hand before you need them. Use your doctor-developed guidebook to select the right prescription or call their telemedicine doctor standing by. It's like an urgent care and drugstore at home. When you're sick, traveling, or stranded, you'll wish you'd ordered a medical emergency kit. Order online in minutes and it's shipped to your door. And save $45 with my promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880. That's promo code 880 at urgentcarekit.com/880.
Hey, it's Alan Hahn. Upgrade your outdoor living space with TimberTech, the #1 brand in premium decking from Rings End. Picture this, a deck that's the highlight of your backyard, turning heads season after season. Now, imagine 20, 30 years later. It's still going strong. And here's the best part. You haven't spent a moment sanding, staining, or sealing it. Visit your local Rings End for the stunning real wood looks of TimberTech decking, paired with the kind of durability that only advanced engineering can deliver. Backed by industry-leading warranties, TimberTech is the decking that performs for decades. Ask for it locally at Rings End.
Hey, Yankees fans! Join us at Yankee Stadium on Friday, August 21st, as the Yankees take on the Toronto Blue Jays. And don't miss Cody Bellinger Bobblehead Night, presented by T-Mobile. The first 18,000 guests through the gates will take home an exclusive Cody Bellinger bobblehead. Get here early, grab the giveaway, and cheer on the Bronx Bombers. Tickets are available now at yankees.com/tickets.
This is Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg.
There needs to be an intervention.
I agree.
And this is coming from a Met fan, and I get it. I'm not telling you to get rid of Mr. Met. He's a part of the fabric of the Mets, but you don't have to make him a part of every damn thing you do. The kids love it. Great. But when Senga's established himself as a closer, Steve Gelbis is trying to break news, we don't need to dance in Mr. Met as if like he's vital to everything that's going on.
Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. Weekdays at 3 on 880 ESPN and the ESPN New York app.
We are moving now.
Electric bikes are everywhere. They are quiet and very fast. Teens ride them on the roads, in bike lanes, but also in places they should not be, like sidewalks and parks.
Look out!
When you ride, wear a helmet. Don't speed. Watch out for pedestrians and cars. New York State and your community have specific rules for electric bikes. Follow them. Go to trafficsafety.ny.gov for more info. A message brought to you by the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee.
Monkey Sports, built by players for players, is your one-stop shop for hockey, baseball, lacrosse, and more. Find top-name equipment and expert in-store services like sharpening, break-ins, and relacing. Shop in-store at Monkey Sports in Farmingdale or Woodbridge, or online for all the top brands. Whatever your sports, Monkey Sports gets you game ready fast. Monkey Sports, where athletes shop.
In a contracting business, you're either growing or you're grinding. Success is no longer about hard work alone. It's about using AI to accelerate impact. ServiceTitan is the only integrated intelligence that seamlessly automates your entire workflow, from first call to final invoice. Born in the trades, built for visionaries ready to stop operating and start automating. ServiceTitan, AI for the trades.
Rich Eisen here. We talk a lot about battles in sports. Teams battling through adversity, athletes fighting for every yard. The toughest warriors I've ever seen, though, aren't on the field. They're kids fighting cancer. Their families standing beside them. Doctors, nurses, caregivers. That's why I'm proud to support Hyundai Hope on Wheels. For over 28 years, they've helped fund pediatric cancer research, raising more than $303 million and supporting over 40,000 children. Learn more and donate at HyundaiUSA.com/Hope on Wheels.
All right, I got some big news for New York sports fans. I mean, this is like big, big stuff. Our friends DiPietro and Rothenberg and Don Hahn and Rosenberg, they are coming to MSG Networks. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Starting Tuesday, September the 8th, catch our morning and afternoon shows simulcasted across MSG Networks television and digital platforms. Oh, yeah. You can still catch us on 880 AM, the ESPN New York app, YouTube, and so much more. 101.9 HD2 for a little HD radio, which sounds glorious, I might add. But we are so excited to start simulcasting on MSG Networks, which is going to give the shows an even bigger platform to reach all of our wonderful fans. So don't miss out. All starting September the 8th on MSG Networks. What could be better? Grasso with you, 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. So tonight begins week 2 of the NFL's preseason. And this is the big week. You know, now the second game are usually the ones that the starters are going to play the most amount of time because, you know, third one, that's the final now. And it's just get everybody healthy to the regular season. Whoever's fighting for roster spots, that's who's going to be seeing the field more often than not in that third game. But tonight, ESPN, 8 o'clock, you got the Raiders visiting the Texans. Maybe see a little Fernando Mendoza action. And then at 10 o'clock, over on the NFL Network, the live football game, too. How about the Niners visiting the Bolts? Little California game with the Niners and Chargers. So that one could be fun as well. Niners already dealing with a lot of injuries this early in training camp. And, you know, watch out for that substation there in Santa Clara, as that once again is wreaking havoc on everything health-related and all. So without further ado, let's get you more football information. I give way once again to my good friend and yours. His name is Tom Bauer, and he's going to give us a little sideline to sideline.
It's going to happen. This is Sideline to Sideline. Go, go, go.
Let's do it indeed. Some football news on the horizon.
You looking forward to these preseason games tonight? You going to watch either one of them?
I'm probably good, but, I mean, if the Giants were playing, maybe I'd be a little bit more interested. Maybe even the Jets a little bit, because, you know, we have the hashtag Cade Brigade going on around here.
So basically, what I'm sensing is that if the locals are not involved, Tom hates football to where he doesn't even want to be bothered.
Yeah, I'm not a lover
What's that, Ray?
I said in his defense, it's preseason.
It's still football. It's still football.
No, if Justin Herbert and the Chargers were playing, Tom might have a little more interest.
If I was in a coma and they asked me in any way, shape, or form that I could communicate being, what do you want on as background noise? I would say football in any form.
I might prefer the silence.
Well, you're in a coma, though. You're not going to hear anything anyways.
Well, yeah.
But if something could possibly, like, bring me to life again, I would say football would do the job.
Like Evanescence, bring me to life.
Okay, sure.
No, I don't think you got the
I'll take your
reference.
word for that one.
Yeah, it was a crappy
Evanescence?
That's right.
Yeah, that I'm not part of that fan club.
Not hip and happening with all that stuff. Any rate.
Were they at one of the 50 concerts you saw this summer or no?
Actually, yes.
Really?
That's right. Did a little tailgating in the parking lot, bought a $50 T-shirt, and
Evanescence is charging $50 for a T-shirt?
Oh, that's right.
So Evan's getting the cut, and then Essence is getting the rest? Like, what's happening here?
I mean, listen, I don't know how the financials break down. Maybe the PNC Bank Arts Center took a cut of that, but there was some payage, and it was $50.
I drove by the Arts Center last night while they were having a show. The place was mobbed, Tom. They had cars basically parked on the parkway, on the side of the road.
Oh, they do have them parked on the side of the road. I've seen people park in the middle of the grass, like, just to then have to walk like a mile to the venue.
And that's allowed? That's you know, within the law?
I don't know if it's within the law, but it happened.
Jeez. All right, so there you go. A little Evanescence for Tom this summer at the Arts Center.
Yeah, there you go.
So so you're not going to watch preseason football?
No.
Maybe you'll, pop on the Evanescence shirt, get comfortable, and just take in the Yankees. But what else is happening in football?
Well, let's see what else is going on. So apparently it was a very good day for the New York Giants at practice, probably because they faced against Miami Dolphins. And I don't know if you knew this. The Dolphins are kind of a crappy football team this year. But the good news is Connor Hughes told Jake Asman the other day that, like, Jackson Dart and the offense, they haven't really clicked too much in practice. and it looks like today may have been the day that the Giants and Giants fans have been waiting for. As Jordan Renan pointed out 30 minutes ago on Twitter, he says, and I quote, "This is the day we've been waiting to see from Jackson Dart this summer. 16 of 22 passing, 2 incompletions were spikes, so that really doesn't count. They had 1 interception as well, but whatever. However, he did hit several downfield throws to Malachi Fields and Isaiah Likely, looked in control." That is exactly what you need to see from Jackson Dart as he continues to learn the new system and, of course, continues to adapt to his new receivers in Malachi Fields and Isaiah Likely.
Now, if I could throw some cold water on that, how much of that is Jackson Dart? How much of that is the crummy Dolphins?
I would like to think that most of it is Jackson Dart and not a lot of it is the crummy Dolphins, but it might be the other way around.
I think that at least the crummy Dolphins part probably plays some sort of a role in it.
You would think.
Yeah, they're not good. They are not going to be good this year.
Well, Malik Willis can't save Miami from a terrible season?
Nope.
Oh.
No. Sorry, guys. Prime Dan Marino couldn't help them this year. They got a lot of issues with that roster.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Apparently, Brian Burns also spoke to Jordan earlier, and he said that the defense was dominant today, that the Dolphins couldn't stop them. Burns said they had 6 sacks in practice, or at least was told, and apparently Burns disagreed and said that there was more. So that's something to look forward to, butting between the run defense of the New York Football Giants. So here's some fun happenings that is going on. I guess A.J. Brown, I don't know if he had a joint practice with Philadelphia. Actually, you know what? I can see it right here. One of the cuts says, did practice versus Philadelphia bring you closure of what happened? But A.J. Brown, you remember that whole drama about how he was getting traded and how he doesn't like Jalen Hurts? Well, apparently he spoke about that yesterday, and he said that he has all but love for his former quarterback.
Man, it's love. Listen. I honestly, guys, none of that stuff even matters. Yeah, I think you all should want to report something positive. You know, asking the question is going to turn negative. So let's not get into that. And let's keep everything positive. It's love my way, and just move forward.
Yeah, let's keep things positive. Let's ask you about your head coach and what happened to him in the offseason. I don't know. It was a lot of overblown. But did this practice bring you any closure, A.J. Brown?
Closure? No, it's not about no closure or anything, man. It's love. You know, I won a Super Bowl ring with them. And it's always be love, no matter how anyone feels. You know, I love Philly, and I will always love Philly. But I'm here now, and that's where my feet are, and that's what I'm focused on.
I don't know if you really love Philly, but I guess Philly was good to him.
It's amazing the Eagles have had as much success as they've had over the last however many years. Just because, everything that comes out of there is drama, right? Guys that are there, guys that move on from Philadelphia. Why is there so much drama with the Eagles, it seems like?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of that is, self-inflicted drama. There was a lot of talk about Nick Sirianni being on the hot seat last year, which was definitely probably overblown because he had great success with them. Maybe, I don't know. The New York market is always tough. Unlike teams and whatnot, I guess maybe the same thing is said for Philly, and maybe that's kind of where things originate from. I really don't know. The Eagles have been, I hate to admit it, a model of success in the NFL over the past 5-6 years. So just a lot going on out in Philly.
Were you the one that asked me when we were talking earlier in the week, or somebody, should the Eagles, let's say, miss the playoffs this year, would Nick Sirianni's job be in jeopardy? Were we talking about that or no?
That may have been me.
But
I don't know. I feel like that would be a question I'd ask.
Right, and I think that it's silly because, he'd have a job in 5 minutes if he wanted to, if the Eagles ever moved on from him. The guy's been in the playoffs every single year. He's got a Super Bowl championship, 2 Super Bowls. People literally would trip over themselves to hire him. Really and truly, Philadelphia is not going to do that unless he wants to leave.
Who knows? Maybe he would want to leave. But, again, I'm just kind of being that, greedy Giants fan that wants misery upon the Eagles.
You probably have to clear it with Rick, though, first, because that's his boy, so.
Oh, yeah, he, met him on vacation or something like that.
Not something like that. That's exactly what happened.
Wow. Yeah, Rick moving on up in the world. Good for him. So, do you care much about the Browns quarterback situation and what's going on right there?
How could you not? It's one of the most entertaining, laughable storylines in all the NFL.
Oh, good. Then you'll love this. Shedeur Sanders not feeling any pressure ahead of the joint practice between the Buffalo Bills and the Browns are having this year. Todd Monken, that is, now revealing a timeline to name a starter between Watson and Shedeur Sanders. My inkling is it'll probably be Deshaun Watson because Todd Monken would probably want a veteran quarterback out there in his first year and then maybe hand the reins over to somebody who has a little bit less experience. But it's just a clown show that continues to go on out in Cleveland.
Forget about who the quarterback is going to be for the Browns. I'm starting to get, like, the spidey sense tingling. Why do I think that Todd Monken's not even going to make it through the season?
Why do you feel that way? Do you think Monken's just going to quit because he realizes the team sucks, or do you think the team is so impatient that they're going to give up on their head coach before it all comes together?
It's going to be a combustible cocktail of the latter, which you just said. And remember, the owner has no idea what he's doing, okay? They shuttle through coaches, players, left and right. And I also think that Monken is very much of the old school guard. Obviously, you've heard it already. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's going to tell you exactly how something is. And I just think once the losses continue to mount, he's probably going to say the wrong thing or two, which is kind of like, I dare you to move on from me, stuff like that. And I don't know how the locker room necessarily is going to feed off of that stuff. And they could probably just say, you know what, the heck with it, let's move on and part ways. That's what I feel.
That's a good feeling that you got right there.
I mean, I don't think it's that off base, right? It is the Browns.
I was trying to say something, and then I realized my microphone was off, so I think the moment has passed. Vita Vea, extension with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1 year, $30 million for Vita Vea, ending a holdout that was going on down there. Very big drama going out in Tampa Bay.
See that? You hold in, and you still could get yourself an extra $30 million in your take-home pay. That's not too bad, right?
Oh, that's right.
And look, you knew that. Look, it's the same thing with the Baker Mayfield nonsense. Like all this talk about Baker Mayfield, they're not moving on from him. Like they have a roster right now, which is kind of win now-ish. You got a head coach who's pushing 65 years old, somewhere around. You think Todd Bowles is sticking around? Todd Bowles has already said that once he's done with Tampa Bay, he's probably going to be like, go and enjoy the rest of his life. He's made enough money. He's not coaching his team to so-called rebuild. He's here to win. So Vita Vea, they weren't moving on from him. Baker Mayfield, they're not moving on from him. Now, is that going to be good enough for them in the NFC South? Only time will tell, but you knew that they were eventually going to keep him. He's too important to what they're going to do.
Now, I've got one more small little thing for you here. The Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, everybody wants to see him play in the preseason, especially against the Jets tomorrow. But it's instead going to be Will Howard and then followed by Drew Aller out there. Now, I'm going to ask this question.
So Will Howard followed by Drew Aller.
Yes. Now, I'm asking this question because...
Good for tonight's starting quarterback matchup.
Yeah, of course. Chris Carlin, notable Steeler fan here at the station. And it's also the name of his show that we're doing right now, too. Do you think he has a rooting interest in whoever looks better against the Jets tomorrow? I know he's all in on the Cade Brigade. Do you think he's going to be tuning in on his vacation to see Will Howard and Drew Aller battle it out against the Jets?
Is he like away on vacation, or is he kind of just like staycationing?
I think it might be more of a staycation type of thing. The last I know, he posted a picture of a video of a golf course that I believe was in New Jersey to his Instagram story the other day.
He's not going to be playing golf today. I'm looking at the weather. It's going to be like a typhoon later this afternoon.
That's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he would maybe... I haven't communicated with him this week, but I think he'll probably just pop it on for a second. I mean, here's the thing. Will Howard, Drew Aller, like Pittsburgh is one of those places that, as we talked earlier about the Jets possibly going and getting a veteran backup quarterback, like Pittsburgh is one of the places you identify because Howard and Aller are both recent draft choices. They're not going to be as reluctant to maybe move on from them so soon. That's why I think like Mason Rudolph could be a candidate to, be the guy that's expendable, especially if one of these other youngsters shows you, a la the Jets situation, that they might be capable of holding down the fort as the number 2 should something happen. Look, something happens to Aaron Rodgers, they're done anyways. Let's face it. Like Pittsburgh, like this is like one last, like, throw something at the wall, see if it sticks. He gets hurt, they're not having a season anyways.
That'll be all for Sideline to Sideline.
I think that was a pretty good Sideline to Sideline. Featured a brief interruption by our good friend who popped into the control room and threw you off your game a little bit, I noticed. We'll have to deal with that. Nevertheless, Your calls at 800-919-3776. We're taking it right up until 1 o'clock. Then it is our friend Mr. K right here on ESPN New York.
There are a million reasons to love New York. Making your budget stretch isn't one of them. According to an independent study, Amazon prices average 14% lower than other retailers. Get food, fashion, furniture, and more shipped straight to your building. Plus, another study found Amazon Prescription Pass customers pay nearly 1/3 less out of pocket. Learn more at aboutamazon.com.
Hey, New York and New Jersey, Boost Mobile has an unlimited talk, text, and data plan that's only $25 a month forever, meaning you'll only ever pay $25 a month for the rest of your life. Who wouldn't want unlimited wireless when it only costs $25 a month forever? If you don't, you must be one of those people who enjoy overpaying for their phone plan. $25 a month forever is truly as good as it gets, so go online and switch now at boostmobile.com. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan.
When care matters most, experience matters more. The Allure Group is redefining rehabilitation and long-term care across New York with 6 convenient locations. Their expert clinicians create personalized care plans to help you recover, rebuild, and get back to what matters most. From short-term rehab to long-term care, Allure is committed to comfort, dignity, and results. To learn more, visit allurecare.com. The Allure Group, where care meets compassion.
This is the Michael K. Show.
The general manager of the New York Giants, that is Joe Shane. Now, one of the things that have been worked on throughout camp is discretion on the part of Jackson to slide. Do you think he's made strides in that?
You know, you just have to learn. You start coming in every Monday and realizing how bad your body hurts and you feel like you were in a car crash, and half of those hits are, avoidable. And Jackson's a smart kid and understands that, and I think that'll be reflected in his play this year.
The Michael K. Show, weekdays at 1 on ESPN New York and streaming live on YouTube. Presented by the Parisman Firm.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 877 Cars for Kids to speak to a friendly live agent. Donation is super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Go to carsforkids.org now or call 877 Cars for Kids to donate your car today.
1877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's cars with a K.
Chris Canty here. Football season is back, and Lids has you covered. Just in time for kickoff. Want the latest headwear to rep your team at the tailgate, at the barbecue, or at the game? Shop the 47 brand NFL collection. Exclusively in store at your local Lids. This collection puts a new spin on retro NFL gear. Lids has every fan covered with all 32 teams, featuring the big time hits and alternate team logos. You'll find the perfect fit for every Sunday. Selection may vary by store.
I'm David Ortiz. When I lost my mom, she was only 46. And I lost my dad to cancer. It was the worst pain I ever felt. It made me think, what will happen with the people I love when my time is up? That's why I have life insurance. Ethos makes it easy. It's all online, take about 10 minutes, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ethos.com/game. Paid testimonial. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Congratulations, New York. The Knicks did it. Through battle after battle, they dominated to become this year's NBA champions. Day in and day out, the hard work paid off, and you were there every step of the way. Enjoy the crown. Own it, because this year is your year. A part of your legacy that will never be forgotten. So celebrate this moment, show your pride, and shop the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
All right, a couple of more minutes here on this Thursday. Grasso with you on ESPN New York. 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. Just some stuff continuing to trickle in from down in Miami, the post-practice comments from the Giants after they finished up with the Miami Dolphins for their joint practice today. Francis Maui Noah, obviously one of the Giants' first-round draft choices, the offensive lineman, he left practice a little bit early. Harbaugh said that it is a stinger, nothing serious, nothing super critical. Obviously, they don't know about the status for Saturday's game. It is preseason, but it's not anything that's going to jeopardize his availability, of course, for week number 1. So that is good news involving the Giant right guard, who, look, is going to have a big role in what this team does, for this upcoming season. And a couple of days ago, on that note, when I was last here, the reports came out that the Giants were signing Najee Harris, who was a Charger last year. And again, you know why that move had to be made, because you had the episode last Saturday where Tyrone Tracy whiffed on a block. Jackson Dart got pummeled, which thankfully did not end up hurting the quarterback in any way, shape, or form, because if it did, that would have been a major, major headache for the football Giants going into the season here. But I think Harbaugh, look, he's sending a message, is that I don't care who you are. It's more than just toting the rock if you're going to be a running back. You better take care of it. When you're in there, you're expected to block, and you're expected to handle that part of the game and the position, as opposed to just going out there and, trying to churn out yards or catch passes coming out of the backfield. You have to be well-rounded with this stuff. And so, bringing in a guy like Harris, that puts a lot of people on notice, not just Tracy, that, now I'm running the show. This is my team, and you better do that part of the game if you want to stick around and be part of this 53-man roster. Because let's face it, a lot of these guys on this team, they were here before John Harbaugh got there, and he doesn't have any allegiance to them. You're either going to play, you're going to prove that you deserve to stick around long-term, and if not, they're going to go find somebody else as far as that is concerned. So, Giants-Dolphins on Saturday, Jets tomorrow in Pittsburgh, and tomorrow's show, we're going to get you ready for the weekend of football. And I understand it's preseason, but still, there's different things that we're going to expect to see from these two teams as they get ready to take the field for their second game. So we'll have the Jet angle for you covered. We'll have the Giants angle covered as well. We'll try to see if we could pop Jordan on tomorrow and Rich, our guys who, of course, cover the teams, because, look, Jordan's got the day off tomorrow down in Miami. He's probably going to schedule some sort of a golf game. Like, he can call in from the golf course. I'm confident from that. That should not be a stumbling block.
I would have high confidence in that.
You tell him to let them play through. He can call in and talk to us for 10 minutes about how things are going on in Miami, what we could expect to see as far as Giants and Dolphins are concerned on Saturday. And as we said, we got preseason football tonight with the Texans taking on the Raiders. See a little Fernando Mendoza. That is an ESPN game coming up at 8 o'clock. And then Niners-Chargers a little bit later on the West Coast on NFL Network, which is technically now part of ESPN. So one big, happy family. No Mets today. You get the Yankees, though. They're going to go for the sweep with Garrett Cole on the hill against the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the finale of that 3-game series. And look, nobody knows how long Max Fried is going to be out, right? We discussed that in length. Is it a big loss for this team right now? Yeah, I mean, you never want to lose a guy like Max Fried, clearly. But you now look at other guys in that rotation who are probably going to be expected to maybe just do a little bit more. And apart from the Max Fried injury alone, as I said earlier in the show when we were talking about the Yankees, they have not gotten good length from their starting pitching the last couple of nights. That bullpen is something that you really have to keep a watchful eye on, because let's not forget, yes, the bullpen's been very, very good, but you're now getting into late August. And these are the dog days here. And, when you think about all the mileage that those arms have been through so far this season, you don't want to run them into the ground, especially if you're going to be without one of your better starting pitchers here of late. So Cole again tonight. He's been very, very good here in the month of August since coming back and, starting to get his legs under him here. So you feel good about what he's been throwing out there, even though he didn't get much help in that last one on Friday night from his defense or the bats for that matter. Hopefully he goes out there and gives his team good enough chance to get this sweep tonight against the Baltimore Orioles, because you're in striking distance of the Tampa Bay Rays. I know it's not ideal with 5 games, but there is still enough time left in the season, despite the fact that, the odds may not be in your favor. you still can't completely slam the door shut on the division, even though it might seem a little bit unlikely. And I think a lot's going to have to go their way for them to somehow track down the Rays, especially when they're playing with less than a full deck. But we'll see what happens here. And speaking of, full deck and getting guys healthy, Cody Bellinger tonight going to play his first rehab assignment game for Scranton in AAA, which is a huge, huge development in Yankee land. And, we'll see what the timetable is. If he gets a couple of games, if they decide to bring him back at any time this weekend for Toronto, or do they decide to wait after the off day on Monday that the Yankees have, and then Cody's back in there on Tuesday when the Houston Astros come to town to start off that series. Nevertheless, it is going to be a very, very welcome sight for this baseball team to get a guy like Bellinger in here as soon as humanly possible, just to be able to, it goes without saying, you're lengthening the lineup. Also, it hasn't been talked about that all that much, but with McMahon going down last night with the thumb, who knows if he's going to have to miss some time here. I'm not saying that it's going to have to be an IL stint, but even if he misses, just a few days, well, that's some more reshuffling that Aaron Boone is going to have to do and play guys maybe out of position a little bit, and then what does that do to the rest of the lineup and so on and so forth. They just can't. They just can't get a break when it comes to these injuries. They really and truly can't. But Bellinger being the first one of the big three back, I think will help this team in a big, big way moving forward for the rest of 2026. But Judge being the biggest key with number 99 and him getting back into the fold, because that is what's going to separate the Yankees from being just a nice little team and a team that can actually compete for winning a World Series championship. They need number 99 in there. And we were joking about the Dodger stuff a little bit earlier, too, when we were doing the audio files with Tom, but don't sleep on that. Don't just dismiss it as nothing's going to happen. When the news started to trickle out a week or so ago, I didn't really devote a lot of attention to it, but the more you dive in, I'm telling you, that is going to be very, very intriguing as to how this whole thing kind of shapes up. And if the Dodgers are ultimately going to be for sale, and if, with the feds and everybody coming after Mark Walter, if he's going to have to give up this team, what is that going to mean for a roster, which was basically a given by everyone in the baseball community that they were going to win this thing again, that they get all the best players, that it's just delaying the inevitable, that it's going to be a Dodgers coronation once again in 2026 and then beyond. This Dodger team could look a heck of a lot different. And by the way, wouldn't it be something if Mark Walter has to sell the Dodgers? They have to, some of these players they're going to have to move on from because they can't afford to pay him anymore. And you got the Mets with the richest owner in the sport, and that they could be the one big spenders, and then you're going to go into the offseason of hell for baseball, have a new CBA, and watch there be some sort of a salary cap implemented for 2027 or wherever there's baseball again, which would nullify the one big Mets superpower that they have, which is the owner's checkbook. Can't rule anything out at this stage of the game. That'll do it for us, though. This was a lot of fun, as always. Thanks to Ray and thanks to Tom. We'll talk to you again tomorrow at 10, but keep it tuned for our buddy Michael K., who has got TMKS coming up next here on ESPN New York. Bye, everybody.
There you were, surrounded by fans. Everybody remembers the game. Nobody remembers the guy coughing behind you. Till a few days later, at 2 a.m., you wake up with a fever and your throat's on fire. Now what? Urgent care? Closed. ER? Slammed. Telehealth? Maybe. But the